Okay, it looks like we're live, which, by the way, I'm going to move my mic again. Blech. Okie dokie. Well, that's a little bit louder. Hold on. Maybe a little too loud. There we go. I think that's about right. Gonna go ahead and post the notice. Why did that not give me a warning for posting it? Almost always does. Not like it really matters, but. All right. I can already see something I forgot to do when making this tier list. Or not even making this tier list. Sorry, I can't take credit for this. Need this. Just need this tier for the people who will be angry at me. We definitely need this tier to be pinked to complement the Kirby theme. Yo, Josh, how are you doing? Had to reach over because I didn't have my phone on me. My thing was dying. Unfortunately, I did not have a whole lot of time when I got home this afternoon, so I feel a little rushed getting into this, but it's fine. I sure do have thoughts, and I will speak them out loud. All right. So, if y'all thought you were done, if we thought I was done with the Kirby Marathon, technically be right. But I am doing this one last victory lap for the series. I'm going to be rating all of the games that I basically did play. I will probably go over the games that I didn't actually touch, since there were, like, what was it? There's logistically 2 or 3 that I didn't touch. And then there's like 1 or 2 that would have been hard to do because they are like Japan exclusive or something like that. But, you know, I'll try and go over everything I can. Obviously, just for the purpose of finally getting everything with a nice little neat wrapped bow. So I will go ahead and make sure I've got my good stuff up for preparation. Let me go ahead and also maximize this because I do not think it was. Okay. So again, we've got all of our games here. We do have it going to S tier. We got A, B, S, A, B, C, D, and did not play. So we will go ahead and go about ranking the first game in the series. You'll see a lot of boxes down here. This is actually a tier list for Kirby box art, which is about one of the only ones that has the sub games on them, like the mini games, as it were, for the eShop. And so this is basically the best that we can do for that. And again, I do appreciate the person who put this tier list together, so that way I didn't have to. But we'll go ahead and get started. We'll start with the first game in the series, Kirby's Dream Land. And I really don't know. There's probably going to be a lot of shifting when I go further in and say, oh, well, this game may be better, or this game may be worse, yada, yada, yada. I think I'm very confident in going ahead and putting it at a B. So, obviously, first Kirby game kind of set the foundation for a lot of stuff. Being on the Game Boy, it is a very simple game, but it is one of the better platformers on the Game Boy for sure. And I'm sure for most people, it's pretty much right alongside Super Mario Land and Super Mario Land 2 for being like the most recognizable games from Nintendo on the Game Boy. But, you know, you can also put in your Tetrises and whatever. there as well. I think it was a really good first start for the series. We didn't have copy abilities yet, so there's a very different contrast there when it comes to playing the rest of the games. And I wouldn't even say that going through the game without copy abilities makes it more difficult. It's really just different. And there's another game that we'll be talking about later where I will kind of make a similar comparison. And Dreamland overall, it's charming. Obviously, it has like the very iconic Kirby music. Kirby music was just absolutely spawned from this game and is remade and remixed and all kinds of stuff over and over and over again. Boss fights, including like Wispy Woods. You'll see him come back a whole lot. It's kind of crazy how much Kirby's Dream Land is taken and evolved or referenced in future Kirby games. And for Kirby fans, it's like, oh wow, I really love this. And then in the way for another series like Sonic, people absolutely despise it because they're just getting more of the same. But honestly, I mean, I think the game overall is fine. It's really, really short. It's also really easy. I mean, go to show is Kirby. But overall, yeah, there's really nothing wrong with it. It's a very solid game. I think the platforming can just take some getting used to if you're not really used to that Game Boy era platforming, because it definitely has like its own momentum and everything to it. But overall, good game. Again, things are flexible. I can move them wherever I want after I do some looking. So I don't think there's anything here that will be a very firm placement until I have probably 90% of it set, if I had to guess. And also a rule for myself. I'm literally just setting this for myself. I think that I will probably only put 3 games in S tier just to keep it from getting too crowded. I don't want to get any tier to get too crowded, right? But S tier definitely needs to have like the smallest amount of games there. So I feel like that's probably what we'll do. And I think for most people, it may be predictable what games go up there. Even so, well, I'm still setting that rule for myself. So this is the Japanese box art for Kirby's Dream Land. So we are going to move on to Kirby's Adventure. And I am actually going to put this one above Kirby's Dream Land. And it's pretty reasonable. I feel like the reason why that this ranks higher than Kirby's Dream Land is because it started with the copy abilities. We got Kirby's gimmick first in this game, and it continued way into the future and is still the one thing that Kirby can basically always fall back on, is just making brand new copy abilities for its games. And that's one of the reasons why I like the series so much, is because for every new game that comes out, it's like, okay, well, what will they do next? And the real answer is they can do anything. Like, the idea is just so versatile. And again, props to Mr. Sakurai, that big guy upstairs, also freaking responsible for Smash, which is basically my favorite fighting game ever, and just series ever that Nintendo produces. And yeah, but going back to the actual topic at hand, Kirby's Adventure is just really, really solid overall. It's weird how late they kind of released it, and you'll see this be a trend with a lot of Kirby games, is they'll kind of release towards the end of a console's life. But they'll still be really amazing games despite, how it doesn't matter how late they came into a console's life, they'll still be really great. And I don't know if that's specifically they like to put a lot of development time into the games, or they just wait to see what other people do, but Kirby's Adventure is definitely one of those games. Yo, hi, Yellow, how you doing? I better see Pinball Land at S, that's all. Oh, you're gonna see it somewhere, all right. You're gonna see it get placed. That's for sure. But Kirby's Adventure is very, very, very solid. It also really sets up a lot of the kind of world outside of just Dreamland. Well, I mean, it builds upon Dreamland. Like, you're not doing a whole lot different in it, but what I mean is that there are citizens and denizens and creatures of Dreamland, but there are also things like dark matter and what is it in this game, specifically Nightmare, that really is just you suddenly have like intergalactic space demon god things. So it's kind of where the whole series starts, where it's like, oh, okay, this took like a really dark turn, and where it basically goes for like the rest of the time. But I think overall, Kirby's Adventure is really great. It does have the old kind of, I don't want to say flaws of old platformers, but I mean, there are sort of traps for newer players that I feel like you can kind of get caught into. Despite how fun Wheel is to use in that game, it really does kind of punish you sometimes for using it. But overall, I mean, I really do think that the game is very well paced. It has a whole lot of accessibility things, especially when you do some of the extra unlocks. There are actually ways to get copy abilities way easier. I have not even mentioned the mini games in the specific game yet, all of which are fine. They're not anything that really enhances the rest of the game, because you're doing them for points and a life count, right? But that breaks up the monotony in between all the other stuff, so I think that's still reasonable. Overall, again, I think is a good place for this. Again, if y'all have any sparking opinions, this is kind of a more discussion-based thing. We are just chatting, as it were. So, speak now or forever hold your peace. And I will now speak on a little game called Kirby's Pinball Land. And I'm going to put this one in D. And I am of the opinion that every Kirby game is to at least some extent good. I think this might be the game that actually gets placed the lowest on the list. And it kind of goes back to being one of the older titles in the series. A lot of the old pinball games, and this doesn't even have to be strictly on the Game Boy, for like any gaming console, the pinball games usually just feel extremely unfair. A lot of the times the physics are just very odd in how they work. And Kirby's Pinball Land is a game that you can beat, but much like every other pinball game out there, it is a very big time waster in that you have to do it like all in one run. There's like no save points, there's no nothing. And when you are having to go up and down and all around between the boards on like the pinball table, and then get to the boss, and then hope you beat the boss, and then have to go to another complete pinball, like quote unquote machine / area for the game, and do all of that consecutively. Yeah. Thank you for your input. Now this game is just, it just reeks of the old video game kind of design, right? Especially for like the Game Boy titles. You're gonna make a game where it's mostly infinitely replayable. Not a lot of it is well, a lot of it is reasonably designed, but there are obvious things about it that makes it a more stretched out game, I guess is the best way to say it. There's nothing inherently like terrible about it, but you can definitely see the cracks of the oldness of the game. I also think that despite the game, you know, having some of the old areas, and this is probably just a limitation of the Game Boy, none of it is really inspired. I feel like they kind of just like throw some Kirby enemies in there, but if you were to replace those enemies with anything else, I don't know if you would know it was a Kirby game. Like, I don't think there's really any area themes for it, besides kind of having like, oh, this one kind of has some like water enemies, so you have like the squiddies and you have the fish in them, or you go to this other thing. But I never got like the feeling I was like, oh, this is like the water pinball table, or this is the green greens table. It just had enemies on it. And so I think theming wise, it's also a little weak in that regard. Again, this is like huge criticism for a game that's literally just like, it's pinball. But again, I feel like you could have gone a little bit further with that kind of stuff. But besides that, there's really nothing else about the game I think is really bad. It is just that it is a pinball game that was made for the Game Boy. And so you kind of already know where it's going to go from that. Pinball Land is peak despite not playing it. Hey, look, hey, when it gets added to NSO eventually, you will get your turn. You will get your turn. But now, we will move on to a much better game that is not technically like a main series platformer, and that is Kirby's Dream Course. And I will go ahead and confidently put this in B. Again, anything on here can move. Probably not this, but anything else on this list can move. And so Dream Course is a really interesting game because it's like golf, but it's crazy, wacky, really interesting golf. And I think the biggest thing about this game is that they actually give the player a whole lot of control with the kind of golfing mechanics, right? And I don't think it goes like super above and beyond. I think a lot of games at around this time, like the SNES, would have had better controls. So it's like you can control your power, you can control your spin, and all this stuff. But I think what really elevates this, if you're going to compare it to the other like golf-like games of this era, is that one, there's a whole lot of variance in really how you decide to take angles and bounces and things like that. In a regular golf game, you have slopes and you have your roughs and sand pits and all this stuff. But really, there's very little of that in this game besides like a couple of variants where you're like going over water, or you have some grass that's a slight slope, and then everything else is literally just angled terrain. And I will go ahead and say, I think the one weakness of this game is sometimes the depth perception in it can be really, really difficult to discern. The one thing that they tried to do to alleviate this was that they had shadows that showed you pretty much where, like if a enemy was very much positioned in the air, that you would still kind of have that depth of field for getting it. It didn't always work. It was helpful, but it didn't always work. But really, that's the only weakness of the game, because honestly, I've talked about the music in some of these other Kirby games, like Kirby's Adventure and Kirby's Dream Land, which all have very iconic songs that were reused for future games. Kirby's Dream Course, though, it doesn't have a soundtrack that is, you know, reused or remixed very often, but it is very, very good. And this is for like a pinball game that's supposed to be like a side series for Kirby. And so, you know, despite that being, you know, probably a lower point for some other people, I really do think it is super up there in terms of like the Kirby soundtrack tier list, but I'm not going to do that. That'd be a huge tack on this, but I still think that that's really good. And yeah, again, I think the controls of it are phenomenal. The copy abilities, giving it more sort of depth to the game and allowing it to also kind of semi-act as a puzzler, just makes it really, really excellent. I think the weakest part of it is the depth of field, and then the final boss isn't amazing. At least that one's just kind of like a whole lot of trial and error. I don't think it's necessarily unfair, but yeah, there can be some times in that game where it's just like, oh, you just gotta restart over. But I mean, that's what it is for like most golf games, right? You gotta shoot for par. So I really don't think that this game is weak in many aspects, and yeah, I think it's still fantastic. And a lot of people really love to mod this game and create their own levels and stuff. So to some extent, this game still has support for it. Besides that, we have, and moving on, we have Kirby's Avalanche. And honestly, this is one I really don't know where to put, because this was a game I did not finish for the marathon. I don't think anyone was really expecting me to finish it for the marathon. My gut currently is saying I can put it at a C. There's nothing really phenomenal about this game, I guess. It's just Puyo Puyo with Kirby and friends, and I'm not good at Puyo Puyo. I mean, I'm barely good at like Tetris and stuff like that, but I'm definitely not good at Puyo, and it's mainly because I haven't really tried to learn it. So probably have I given it more time. I think that it would be a sort of reasonable game to kind of go through. But man, it does also ramp up in difficulty, because again, I did try playing through it, at least for like a single stream, but yeah. Marathon void because you didn't finish Avalanche. Oh, well, for most of the stuff, like I didn't, like there were games I did not play, so to most people, the marathon would be completely void already. But I do what I do, so it's my tier list, it's my marathon, I do what I want. And honestly, yeah, I really do not have much more to say about this game. I do think it is fine. It's Puyo Puyo, it's not, there's no inherent flaws with it. You get some funny quotes out of it, but really, I don't like that. There's nothing more to really talk about it. If you love puzzlers, you might rank this higher because it's Puyo Puyo and it's Kirby, so you have like two things in one that you might really like. For me, it doesn't do a whole lot. And so I'll just go ahead and leave it there. It's a C, and I think that, you know, we'll see a couple of other things here in C, and so it'll probably end on the lower end for that tier. And we're gonna move on to the next game, which I also don't know how much I have to say about it, but there is one very big thing I have to say about, believe this is Dreamland 2, and I think I would probably put it at the bottom of B, and part of me almost wants to put it at the top of C, but here's my justification. This game is so unfair. I do not know what the game design was behind some of these levels, but oh my goodness, they really decided to choose some of the like a lot of obtuse kind of puzzles for like requiring certain team members and whatnot. All these other things about it that kind of just makes it a bit obtuse. But honest to goodness, there are a lot of rooms in the game that do just feel like either unfair or sort of overlooked in the overall game design. And again, I wish I had some more specific things to kind of tack onto that, but you gotta remember, I probably played this game like 4 months ago. So despite how I feel about it kind of remaining, I really don't have anything up front to put to back up how I feel. But there are definitely a lot of issues with this game in terms of kind of the platforming and layout and all of that. I do think that one of the biggest strengths that this game has, and what most people would agree, are the partners. I think that it's super cool that Kirby gets more sort of main characters added to the roster. And despite them not really showing up a whole lot in future games besides being a lot of cameos, I still think it's really cool. And it's a really interesting idea to kind of mix up the formula going from Dreamland and onward. But I still don't think I really like the game, and we'll kind of have a bit more to say when we get to Dreamland 3. And I think that game is a good bit more polished, however, still shares a lot of the same issues. But again, I'll try and save that. So Kirby Dream Land 2 is probably a low B. I'll see what I would like to decide later, but I think it's good. I don't think it's terrible. Especially because the game, just like any other Kirby game, is really easy to go through. There's no huge difficulty spike besides just some of the unfairness. Oh, well, one of the levels I can remember off the top of my mind is towards the end, and it's like an auto-scroller, and there are literally times where if you choose the wrong path, there's no way to escape, and you just die. So, but that's like the only one I can think of right now. But B it is. Hopefully, I don't know how Dreamland 2 ranks on other people's lists, so I don't know if that's a really unpopular opinion. We'll see. But we'll move on, and I'm going to go to Kirby's Block Ball, which I think is probably the top of C. And while I enjoy this game a whole lot more than Kirby's Avalanche, I think it suffers kind of the same thing from Avalanche, where it doesn't really feel like it does a whole lot to really differentiate it. The one big thing about it is it's Breakout, but with Kirby power-ups. But there's also only like 3 Kirby power-ups, and so in hindsight, that's not a lot of variance when you're going further into the game. A lot of it does tend to get really repetitive, and it just... And I don't think that that's a weakness of the game, especially because of the era that we're in, keeping in mind at this time. But it also doesn't make it very memorable at all, right? I don't think that there's anything about this game that's really outstanding. I don't remember a lot of the music. I don't remember a lot of the actual boss fights. I feel like 90% of them felt like Krakow, and that was it. You just felt like Krakow, and you bounced against the walls, and you hit the thing. I might be wrong about that, but I feel like I fought Krakow 6 times in that game. Anyways. But really, yeah, and again, the boss fights are all the same, too. There's like a slight bit of variance between each one, but it's just, you're in an arena, there are things you bounce off the side, you hit the enemy, and sometimes they may have a specific weak point you have to hit them in, and that's about it. There's nothing really phenomenal about it, and so I think I probably will just stop where I'm at, say, Block Bowl is a fine game. And again, I don't think anything about this game is necessarily offensive. I think anybody can have fun with this game, but there's nothing about it that's going to stick with you for all time, and it's going to be your favorite game ever. Because even for me, there are a lot of games on here that I am going to rank with bias that a lot of people will not agree with, but, you know, gotta keep in mind, that's what a tier list is all about, right? And so we are getting on to the big one of the probably most contested Kirby games for being at the top, the original Kirby Superstar for the SNES. A lot of people actually do think that this game is better than the DS game. I do not think that's the case. I still do think it is towards the top of A. What is there to not say about Kirby Superstar that most people haven't already said? It has an incredible wealth of different modes to play. It has a ton of like mini campaigns to go through. One of the campaigns just mirrors the first Kirby's Dream Land. It's just that it now has proper, it just now has like the proper copy abilities to go along with it. It has Dynablade, which is a weird mode, but I mean, still obviously fun. There's nothing wrong with it. There's Meta Knight's Revenge, which is incredibly great. It has some of the most iconic music that was carried over from a Kirby game. And then you have the Great Cave Offensive, which is I really think it is a extremely good mode for replayability. But there are obvious, like, not failures in it, but just a lot of difficult moments that make it so that you're almost forced to replay it without prior knowledge or without a guide. And I don't think that that's a necessarily a bad thing, because it is the high score mode of the game. But I think the journey forward is still really fun too. And then, of course, nobody can forget, I was about to say Dream Course, Lord of Mercy. Nobody can forget Gourmet Race. Gourmet Race, again, a huge influential part of Kirby, both in the song and just for some modes moving on in the future. It's just, this game has a ton, and then Milky Way Wish is one of the best ways to end off kind of wrap up the bow on the package. It has so much to do in it, and then when you're going to all the areas and having the access to use different copy abilities in these really weird but unique puzzle area rooms, it is pretty incredible what all Kirby Superstar was able to do on the SNES. And again, this was another game that kind of released towards the end of the console's life, so it was, you know, it's a really weird parallel when you're thinking about all these other games and you realize, oh, well, this game came like way later, so that's why it's kind of, that's why it almost stomps on every other game that's come before it so far. And, you know, the sprite work for the game is phenomenal. Expressions are, the characters in the game are even more expressive than ever. Environments are incredible, just a complete delicious eye candy, colors pop. It's just, this is like quintessential Kirby, and I think that the developers really did realize this as soon as this game came out, because they basically said, okay, this is, we've got the feel now, this is what we'll keep doing. And I don't think that they've really missed since. I feel most people, I would say, think that every Kirby game that kind of, you know, is the standard platformer is about average, right? You could probably rank them about like 5 or above for any Kirby game moving forward. And I think there's maybe one exception, despite the fact that it has a huge gimmick that's tied to it. But again, I think Superstar could not have its praises sung enough. And it really is only not in S because over time we have gotten so many other amazing Kirby games. But that's keeping in mind that Kirby is... I love Kirby, but there's still a whole lot here that's just awesome. And I think that that's great. I think that it's good that we have so many good games in a series. And I'd say that anything above B is definitely worth playing. And then C is like an average game. You can play it if, you know, if it's just a missing game that you haven't played in the series. And then D, sort of the same thing as C, but you know, you can probably leave it towards the last on the ladder, right? All right, and now we will move on to Kirby Star Stacker, which I'm gonna just rate like I think I'm gonna rate it here because, and I think for most people these two games could be interchangeable, but Star Stacker is just like a really easy puzzle game, and I really feel like that's about it. The little, again, very much like Avalanche, the very little time I spent with it, I got the main core of the experience, like how you're supposed to play the game, what the kind of combo routes are, what the game expects of you, I guess, but there is very little that leaves an impression in this game. And for Kirby, I really do feel like that's a super important thing. You have to have like the right combination of theming and music and presentation and all this other stuff, and things like Star Stacker really do not leave that at all. And you know what? For that reason, I'm going to place it below Avalanche, because I think Avalanche is at least recognizable for that, despite being a straight Puyo clone and, you know, taking a lot of assets from those kinds of games. I think at least when you look at Kirby's Avalanche, you see a whole lot of a Kirby game. It has a whole lot of the enemies. It has a whole lot of the areas. I think some of the music in that is retrained from the previous games, and, you know, it's got some original music as well. A Star Stacker, I couldn't even tell you what's in the game besides King Dedede, Kirby, and the star blocks. And, like, that's it. And I feel like that's really bad. If the game is sort of unremarkable in that way. And to go even further, I would say even Pinball Land is at least very recognizable, because the impression, at least, despite it not being good, to me at least, I still remember a whole lot of that game, but Star Stacker is just kind of like, it's just there. So I think that's fine where I leave it where it is, because again, I think at least Star Stacker as a game is more solid than Pinball Land. But that it is what it is. I don't want to spend like another 20 minutes talking about something that I have not a whole lot of opinions on. Just condensing your script. Yo, let's go. Get that next video out. So I'm actually a bit confused because I'm trying to look here and I don't see Kirby Superstar Stacker on here. I believe that's what it is, right? I'm not gonna tab out of this. I just need to look at this. Why is this separate from everything else? I have no idea what I did with my tabs. Wow, I really had no idea what I did with my tabs. Holy cow. Yeah, let's go back over here. Make sure I haven't missed anything. Oh, right. Toy Box, I guess, technically was a game. So it would be after Dreamland 3. Let's see and make sure that that's there. This is Dreamland 3. This is Superstar Stacker, I think. Yes, because then this is Kirby. Okay. So not quite there yet. Well, you know what? Honestly, I'll just go ahead and put it there. This is a Japan exclusive only game, so that's the reason I haven't played it. If you wanted me to be honest, it probably would only rate above it because maybe it has a little bit more included. I have never seen gameplay of this game, and I don't know if I ever will. So, but that's where it'll be for now. So I skipped ahead, went ahead and rated that, and then we have Dreamland 3, which I do think actually deserves a spot in A. And I say this because of the art style alone. Oh my god, this game is just like most other Kirby games, it is a treat to look at. It has the most outstanding style compared to any other Kirby game, and I think that bumps it up significantly. This game from start to finish is just an absolute joy to look at. I think control-wise, it's also very solid. It has a good bit of the regular ability flair that's, you know, just good for Kirby games. I don't think it's really lacking in any part there. I think my only gripe with it is the same gripes I have with Dreamland 2, and it's that some of the puzzles are a little bit out there. I do think that they give more reasonable hints for them in Dreamland 3, but it has just as many levels, which means there are some parts of it where you're trying to get the actual collectible for it, or whatever it is. It's like a star shard or a happiness point. I don't know what it is. Anyways, the collectible that you usually get at the end of a level, not as intuitive as you would expect. And a part of that does play into the reason, you know, there's supposed to be a lot of replayability to some of these games, especially for the Dreamland series, it seems. But it's just not amazing. And there are a lot of, well, not a lot. There are less bad levels in Dreamland 3 compared to Dreamland 2, but they still have some of those that are just like, ugh, where they're just really so slow side scrollers that take way too long. There are some really, I won't even say difficult platforming segments, but very unforgiving platforming segments where you're very much intended to get through it with a certain partner. And if you die in a pitfall or to an enemy or something else that's, you know, meant for you to lose the partner, you have to start the level all over again, because there are very few checkpoints in the game where you actually get a partner before the solution for it. And maybe for some people, that's an actual criticism of newer Kirby. When there's a puzzle, it's never really a puzzle. A lot of the times it's like, oh, this is a thing that's given to you. You need to use the fire ability here in front of this cannon. Oh, there's a thing you have to cut in front of you. You can use the cutter ability there. To me, I do not care. Especially for collectibles. If I'm going to go out of my way to try and get something, try and make it easy for me. And it doesn't even have to be the thing where it's like, it's in the same room with the challenge, but have it like outside of the room, or allow me to backtrack to go get it. So, but I think Dreamland 3 has a whole lot going for it, especially over 2. So I do think that Dreamland 3 is a significantly bigger upgrade from Dreamland 2. It is probably reasonably placed above these other games on the list. And of course, you got your new characters. You have Chu, Pitch, and Nago. I'm pretty sure that's their names. I'm going to pretend like that's right. And obviously, even more lore dump stuff if you really want to get that much into it with Dark Matter, and you got GUI. So just a lot of good stuff added in Dreamland 3. And despite some of the weaknesses being carried over from Dreamland 2, it's way more solid, and the art style just completely sells the game, at least for me. So we'll move on. Again, I've already rated Superstar Stacker because I did not play it. Japan exclusive from what I recall. And so we're getting into a big boy game, which is probably going to be maybe a game that's not as highly rated as other people. Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. I definitely think that there's a whole lot of bias that goes in here for me. Your hair always looks like that. No, I got a haircut today. By the way, hi Empress. Hopefully you're doing good. Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, was such a formative game for me because, and this is pretty cringe, you can decide how you want to take it. This was my McDonald's play place game. You youngins nowadays will not know what that means, but at a lot of McDonald's, they would have specific kiosks that would have video game just consoles there. And 90% of the time when I went, it was always in 64. I'm not sure if that was a specific licensing deal that they hooked up with Nintendo or what the case was, but when I went to a N64 kiosk, this was always the first game that I played, and that for right now is really making me rank it an A. Now, being not so biased, I think this game is still really good. I think this game, probably the highest merit for this game for sure, is the music. The music in this game is incredible. It's used for so many other games in the series, and despite it kind of having a spell where the music wasn't used anywhere at all, it is one of the biggest banger soundtracks for the Kirby series that has ever been done. And I will stand by that. This game is freaking amazing when it comes to its soundtrack and sound design and all of that kind of stuff. Everything feels very punchy in the game, that when you get hit, there's a very real, like, oh my god, I might die, because the game is not as easy as probably some of the other Kirby games here on the list either. Yo, Audrey, how's it going? Hopefully you're having a good night tonight. Be sure to share some of your Kirby opinions with us. If you either have one, some hot takes, or two, think differently of something that I'm talking about right now, because again, I love discussion, so that's what I'm gonna do. 64 came out the day after my birthday, so it gets a pass from you. It gets a pass because it's a birthday game. God, yeah, you're just really, you're baby. You're young. Back on track, though. Gameplay-wise, I absolutely love the combo abilities in this game, being able to go between different things. And while I'm not sure a bunch of them are really inspired, they're still really cool. I don't think that this has really been replicated in a game yet, but I want it to come back so freaking badly. There are two games that come to mind that kind of go forward with that, but there really is nothing that quite matches it. And that is one of this game's big strengths, but is also, unfortunately, one of its big downfalls. Because getting the collectibles in this game is just as frustrating as it is in Kirby Dream Land, both 2 and 3. There are times where the game is very, 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 very obvious in telling you exactly what you need. And sometimes it's literally just like, oh, that enemy is in this room and you can just try it on it and it's red. And so it's like, oh, you can just use the fire ability. Oh, that works. But then it'll kind of lead you on a little bit more and it's like, okay, well, this one has like a red like fire and then like a brownish orange, so that's probably rock, so let me try that there. Oh, that's what it was. That was the type combination. This is Pokemon now. That's the copy ability combination. Okay, awesome. Then there are like 4 or 5 instances in this game where the combinations that are there, 1, make no sense, and 2, require copy abilities that are completely outside of the levels that they're in. Why would you do that? I genuinely, like, it's not something that's like, it completely ruins the game, but that is definitely like something that sets it back, because it's just like, why would you do that? What was the point besides just making a person just backtrack all over trying to figure out what these combinations are? And it's either 1, again, just completely in a different level, or 2, the solution doesn't make sense for the level or what it's trying to tell you. Because they have a lot of like visual indicators of like what you might want there too, right? Not just the, oh, it has these colors, so this is probably what it is. There are some that just do not reflect that at all. And so I think that that's another pretty fair weakness of the game. I kind of mentioned it before, visuals in the game are still really good. I really don't think there's anything bad about it, especially for being a 64 game. Some people could say, oh, it could have been more ambitious and that it could be more like actually Super Mario 64. It could be a true 3D platformer. I don't think that would have fit the game well at all. The game is, or Kirby to that point had always been a very 2D focused game, so making it a 2.5D platformer was a very good evolution for the series. I think that was a very good decision on their part. Stick to what they know. And I guess the really only final thing is the story that's a part of it, which isn't phenomenal. I don't think maybe 2 Kirby games, like, without having to go deep dive into the lore, really have good stories. This one is fine. Are you supposed to have a hot chili pepper while doing a tier list? No. No, most people just rant. That's what I'm doing. I love ranting. Blah, blah, blah. I'll pause myself for a second. I've only played Kirby's Adventure and Super Kirby Clash, so I can't say anything which games are best in the series. I mean, you can still say what you think about them if you were here during it. Boo, boring. All right, well, you're not like every other tier list person out there, because literally nobody else does the interesting stuff. They're just like, this is what I think about this, and here's what I'm gonna say that's super controversial. I'm gonna put it in the thumbnail, I'm gonna shave it in your face, and then that's it. I mean, I feel like that's about the most interesting stuff you get from most tier lists nowadays, and so I will be the exact same thing. You need hot chip. Nope, I don't have any hot chips, and I would definitely not lie, because I'm making a tier list, so. But kind of finishing what I have to say about Kirby 64, the final boss is definitely one of the more strong parts of the game, and probably one of the better boss fights in the series. It's very creepy, it's very foreboding, but that also makes it very memorable. So, I think Kirby 64, for now, especially because of my bias, does deserve the A spot and does deserve it that high. Again, this may be the first game where people would probably place it lower, but I do think that overall, some people could see this and like understand where I'm coming from. The next game is Kirby Tumble. It's a oh man. I'm gonna put it at the top of D for right now. I do not think this game is terrible, but this game, and again, I also have to preface, I did not play this on original hardware. One, it would be near impossible to do that because there's almost no way to get footage of a Game Boy unless you spend like a bunch of money on specific hardware to do so. And, you know, I played it on the Nintendo Switch, so yeah. Oh god, never mind, I forgot about Tumble C. This is where I'm going. Actually where I'm going. Alongside Star Stacker and kind of Block Ball and some of the other games down here, there's nothing really about this game that makes it super phenomenal. Please put that at the bottom. No. Pinball has to stay at the bottom. I do not think any game will go underneath it. I think that the gimmick is a very interesting idea. Some other games on Nintendo platforms have actually used this before, so this wasn't a like super new thing. The problem is it still doesn't work very well, and it leads to a lot more frustration than it does to actual fun. The level design in it is very hinging on the actual gyro controls of it, otherwise it would be a super easy game. But the finickiness of the gyro controls, and again, this is for the Switch. I'm talking about the Switch version. It's still really, really rough to get down just right. It really doesn't matter like how much you try and calibrate and stuff. A lot of the times it really does feel like something will get completely lost in the sauce. You'll be bending it one way and you'll bring it back up and you thought you'd slow down more than you really would, and it still feels like it keeps going. And you can't decide whether or not, oh, well, that was the thing being uncalibrated, or, oh, well, I just haven't gotten used to the controls. And there's a whole lot of that just keeps like recycling itself over and over and over and over and over. And it doesn't make for a very good experience. This was also a Kirby game that I did not beat. I got very, very far in it, but I did not go ahead and commit to it. I asked, yeah, don't get mad at me. I asked people if they wanted me to finish it, and they said, no, you can move on. And I said, okay. Because we'd really seen all that we needed to of the game. I do not regret that. I might go at some point to finish it, because again, I'm at like the very end of the game. I'm at like World 7 or whatever, how many levels or worlds were in the game. But it's just okay. Again, along with like some of these other games, I do think that they are also the just okay category, but it kind of falls in that very unremarkable sort of... And it feels so bad to say, because again, I want to rate every Kirby game as high as I can and give them like the praise they deserve, but there's just nothing about this that's like remarkable. Looks like I have to pick up the slack. Lick. Disgusting. I think I got an actual emote version of that from 7TV. I think it's Pat Lick. I think I would have to actually get it for you. Anyways. Yeah, I don't want to spend another like 5 to 10 minutes on that. So we're going to move on. The next game after that is, I think this is also Tilt and Tumble. I'm pretty sure. I'm going to double check myself to make sure, but I'm pretty sure. Yes. So we move on to the best era of Kirby, which is the Game Boy Advance era. Game Boy Advance and DS era. I say that, and most of my opinions probably won't like really reflect that, but I still think it's pretty solid overall. Don't have 7TV installed. Oh, there we go. Yellow, you found it. I did not have 7TV installed. That's fine, but I mean, for the most part, you're going to be getting more out of the emotes and stuff if you do that. So, next, Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland. I would probably rate... I mean, I guess it's reasonable to put it right here. And here's the thing. Again, this is another part of bias. One, Game Boy Advance era was really where I grew up with games, so this is definitely up there. Two, I really, really do like the control of Kirby in those era of games, both the DS and the Game Boy Advance. The speed at which he usually goes, it doesn't feel like you're usually like, I don't know, jogging, sort of like how it feels in like the other games, just like tad too slow. In these games, it feels like you blast off, like you go fast, and you can go as fast as you want for the most part, and the only thing that gets in your way are the obstacles. But if you know where the obstacles are, you just speed through this stuff, and it's really fun. For those who don't really have any context, since I don't know if I really mentioned it, Nightmare in Dreamland is a retrain of Kirby's Adventure, and it's pretty good. I don't think that there's a whole lot of extra content that's included that's outside of the normal game. I think that there are some additions to it, like that just make some copy abilities easier to use, like Ball, which Ball is a thing, but you know, I don't have to go too far. If I like rated games also, you know, based on like soundtrack and copy abilities and all this stuff, I feel like I would be here for 3 hours instead of almost the hour I'm already at, and I haven't even made it halfway through the series. So, but yeah. Yo, Chris, thank you for the tier 1 sub for 37 months. You said stinky. I do really appreciate it, my guy. Hopefully you enjoyed that tier 1 sub, and thank you for the 3 years and 1 month. Do really appreciate that. Hopefully you've had a good day, my friend, and having a good night so far. We're talking about Dreamland, Nightmare in Dreamland right now. So keep going on with that. So yeah, I don't think it has anything content-wise that's really super amazing compared to Kirby's Adventure. I think it has maybe like one new minigame that's, to me, really, really fun. I think it's the one where it's like the star slider and you actually like go up and down on the thing and you can time your things to boost it on the rail. That might actually be the completely wrong game, but I think that's what it's from. And so, yeah, I think if you really wanted all my thoughts, you could probably just go back to Kirby's Adventure. I think that the level design in it's really good. Music's obviously going to be good because it's just more quality remixes of the original games. I guess it kind of depends there if you really like or dislike the Game Boy Advance's sound trip, which I love it because I grew up with those, a lot of those games during the era. I don't really know yeah, I really don't know that I have any super gripes with it, because there's nothing about it that screams that it's worse than the original. And again, the original isn't like terrible. Like, that's why I have them right next to each other. I really don't think that this one is super phenomenally better than it, besides the fact that it's like, okay, one, I guess it's portable now, and two, it looks better and just has some better, like, visual flair. That's about it. But that's why I also think it's great. So, again, I think I'll probably cut that one short. I think it's really good. And there's a good bit of bias that plays in that one, I will acknowledge. Then we get to a very big a very big cult classic game that people are absolutely freaking raving about it getting a sequel or a re-release or something. We have Kirby Air Ride, and I'm going to put it in D. No, I'm going to put it there for right now. In regards to Diamond Journeyland, I remember hearing about that after playing Kirby's Adventure. That was a remake on the GBA, but I didn't know how better it was compared to the OG game. Yeah, there's really nothing about it. I think that means, like, if you played Kirby's Adventure, oh, you missed out on the Nightmare and Dreamlight experience, or vice versa. I don't think there's any of that. So, anyways, now that I've baited people and they're getting really mad at me at putting this in D, I think that Kirby's Air Ride probably goes, like, up here. And here's the thing. I will fully acknowledge that this game is not amazing as a racing game. The controls of it are stupid simple. If you're wanting to race, like, competitively in the game, you know, competitive Kirby racing, I mean, that's just, it's what everybody wants. There are some huge outstanders in the roster where it's just like, why would you use any other air ride vehicle besides this one? But that is not where Kirby Air Ride shines. Where Kirby Air Ride shines is in its City Trial. And the fact that City Trial is just infinitely replayable. There is no reason not to go back and play City Trial. If you ever pop open the game and you play it with friends, you're gonna have a good time. It does not matter. You will have fun. And games go so quick. Well, you can adjust how long games last, but games go relatively quick that it's so easy to just say, okay, that was fun. Let's go get into another one. It is a really, 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 really fun game that, despite having that as its, like, huge thing that everybody loves about it, that wasn't even the main focus of the game. It was like racing. And the tracks in it are just fine at best. The music in the game, actually, the music in the game is very, very good. I think that there are some tracks in there that they could actually remix more. They have done that a good bit as of late. But the soundtrack of the game has been good. The tracks themselves, some are good, most are just okay. I mean, the real standout ones are like the lava level, because there are so many branching paths you can take. The checkerboard is like a really good entry level for, like, most players, I feel like. I'm double checking to make sure I have time left in this playlist. I do not. I am, like, right at the end, so I better find something before this goes to Pokemon music. There we go. All right. I'll probably turn this one down a little bit because it says happy and epic music, so I'm not really sure how much louder that'll be compared to everything else. All right. So back to the topic at hand. You know what? I'm going to turn this down a little bit more. There we go. I feel a little bit better about that. Not a whole lot better, just a little bit. So anyways, yeah, Kirby Air Ride. The game and the racing, again, for some of the tracks, it's really fun. For a lot of them, though, it's just kind of okay. It also has what the final track is and looks like is really, really cool and breathtaking. But then once you realize it's just like a really long track that's basically like a giant 8, and then that's like it. That's about... It's definitely like a really underwhelming way to like end all of your courses. And it doesn't leave like a lot of replayability, especially for that mode. And then you have Top Ride, I think. I honestly don't even remember if that's the name of the mode. But that one's also kind of unremarkable. It's really like if you had some like electric buggy cars and you're like driving them around and it has like its own weird control style. That really is pretty unremarkable too. That's like a side game, just like the regular racing is, besides City Trial. City Trial is the big boy. That's the one that everybody comes back for and everybody talks about. So the other two modes, again, I feel like they're very one note. You can have fun with them, but they're probably not going to be what keeps you coming back to the game. City Trial is infinitely replayable. It's stupid to compare it, but it's literally like a roguelike. You collect all of these stats and materials that you can get to boost your air ride machine. You can choose which air ride machine you want, but you have to like go out and look for it. You can unlock the ultimate air ride machines or the legendary air ride machines, and just absolutely dominate the competition. The variance for City Trial makes it infinitely replayable, and I guess also to the game's benefit, there is a achievements list. I don't encourage anybody to actually try and go out and do that, but it's there. So again, I think Air Ride is very solid. It might be a game that moves on this list, but I will not move it because it is a name. And then I will go ahead and get to the next game, which again is another big nostalgia game for me, and that is Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. Now, this is my first ever Kirby game that I owned. I'm almost certain it is not the first Kirby game I played, because I really do think that that first one actually does go to Kirby 64. And because things are getting a little bloated here, I'm going to do this and put this here. Amazing Mirror, I think, is a pass for a lot of people. And they probably would rate it like right here, maybe. But it has, again, some of my favorite things of that era. It has the speed and the control of all of the Kirby Game Boy Advance and DS games that I really love. It has a bunch of good copy abilities, and it's introduced to some new ones that I think make it very mesh well with the meshes well with the kind of game design for it. And again, I can't put too much into the copy abilities in this game, but this is where the smash ability was introduced, and by God, literally the best ability in any Kirby game ever. And again, my favorite for a reason. So, just getting some of those smaller things out of the way, the big thing, obviously, is the huge emphasis on exploration for this game. And I think it's done really, really well. I think a lot of people don't realize that the game has a map for you to actually reference, and it's not even in a manual. You can go to the menu and then see a map, and it tells you what areas go to where. Very much about this game is actually like hidden. You have to really explore through this game if you want to find all of the hidden content for it. And so I think that this game is honestly really easy to beat. And that's coming from a person who's played through it a good few times. But any person who recognizes that very early on will not have any difficulty beating this game. It's just that it is not as linear as your standard Kirby game. And you might have to do some trial and error depending on whether or not, oh, you don't know that this boss area is usually the bigger yellow square in a thing, or, oh, you didn't find the specific map room to see exactly where everything is, which you never need. You don't need the map for each area. It's just helpful in case you haven't found a boss. But I think overall the game's good. I think the music in this game is memorable, but again, that is also because bias. I think if somebody were to go back and play it today, they may not remember the music as much as I do. I think that the co-op aspect is amazing, and I am so looking forward to it when it comes out on NSO. I don't think it's out on NSO yet. If that has happened, I'm going to feel really bad that I haven't actually gone to ask people to play that with me yet, because that's the experience I've been waiting for all my life. But I think that despite that being a really just big gimmick of the game, as opposed to being... Okay, thank you, Yellow, for the confirmation. Whew. Despite that being a huge gimmick of the game, because this is definitely one that you can play by yourself, and every person gets replaced by an AI companion, which is just an AI companion. They're not amazing. But I still think the idea for it is phenomenal. And I really wish that they'd make another one, that they'd try it again. Do like a $30 to $40 title, whether it's digital only or it gets a physical release, and just retrain a bunch of the ideas from Amazing Mirror and make a co-op exploration game. I don't see those enough, and I honestly kind of wish that there were more like it. I haven't done a whole lot of searching, otherwise there might be another game I could compare it to. But really, I do not think that there's anything like it. And I think that that's what makes it so special in my head, besides just, nostalgia. I really cannot compare this game to anything else, it feels like. Because every player has like a very individual way of going about the game. You're not tethered like in normal platformers all to one screen. Anybody can go wherever they want because of the functionality of like the link cable, right? So I think that this game is really amazing. I think people would normally rate it lower, but Amazing Mirror is amazing. I had to fit that in there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else about it. I mean, the secrets in the game are fine. They're not easy. They're not difficult to obtain. The final boss is good. It's probably not the best final boss in a Kirby game, but it's also very forgiving, because if you die during the final boss, but when your AI partners is there, just somebody else is there, you can just jump in and you return to that. So, I don't know. Makes the game a whole lot easier. Which, to me, is fine, because playing through a whole bunch of bosses and then having to do it all over again is frustrating. As I've shown many times on stream. But that's where I'll leave it. Again, it could actually go down on the list. Again, I don't want A to be too amazingly just huge and stretching all the way out. I can't put every game in A. I just can't. That wouldn't be reasonable. But I will go ahead and not rate the next game in A. And I think it instead goes to a mid-B. Canvas Curse is an interesting, very interesting game. Because this is one of the first Kirby games where it's like a pseudo-platformer. And again, we've had that before. We've had Tilt and Tumble, which really kind of fits that genre, right? It's a platformer, but it's like, oh, it has a special twist to it or whatever. But this one is actually manageable, and it makes incredible use of the DS. It is one of the best designed games for the DS, and I think that even most people who probably don't love Canvas Curse would still hold that opinion, that the platforming in this game is extremely intuitive and, actually fits Kirby really well in terms of its kind of ease of gameplay. I still don't think it sticks the landing, though. And I don't know exactly what about that it is. And I think it may be because of the finickiness of the tap controls, where sometimes you'll tap Kirby and maybe sometimes he won't dash because maybe he just bounced off a wall, and so sometimes your input gets eaten or something else like that. And I think that this would deserve a replay for me to give it a more confident spot. I'm not 100% sure with B, or this spot in B, because I think maybe it could be a little higher. But I think where it is right now is fine. In terms of like the Kirby lore and story and stuff, it's fine. I think it's probably one of the more unremarkable Kirby stories, especially because it feels very disconnected from the rest of the Kirby games. And Draka, I think that's their name, is just an okay villain. It's like fine. But the art style of the game and the music of the game are all very standout. I think that those two things are the very few that really people remember. And of course, the gimmick itself with the stylus. So, yeah, I honestly don't have too much more to say about this one. It's a good game. It's just not amazing. I think that there are places where it kind of falters. I think that also the level layouts and stuff for it, kind of how you explore the worlds, a lot of them are really short. Like, and I know that's weird to say, like, oh, a Kirby game's short. But no, like, this one feels like they had a lot of ideas, but they just decided to downsize maybe. So, I don't know. A lot of potential. Feels like it could have gone a few more places, especially with copy abilities. I think copy abilities were also sort of nerfed in this game to an extent. Like, there really wasn't a whole lot to experiment with, but whatever. It's fine. There's nothing really about it that's, especially compared to some of these other games here, there's really nothing about it that's offensive. It's a very solid Kirby game, just a different flavor of platformer compared to what most people are probably used to. Let me go ahead and get a swig of water. Please, chat, if you have not been hydrating, do it. It's very important. Water is recommended, but tea or juice is also fine. The reason I'm hydrating is because I have to gush about my favorite Kirby game of all time. Kirby Squeak Squad. Or Kirby, what is this? Lord, what is it called in other regions? What was it called? Mouse Attack? I'm really trying to remember. Fake fan. And unfortunately, I don't think, despite my bias, I really don't think I can rate this game any higher. And I'm just kidding. I'm rating it up here. So again, your average person would probably put this game right here. I have a feeling. Most people will probably put it down here. But me, I'm a stupid guy who really likes a lot of things about this game, and I'm going to tell you why and try and make it as quick as possible. 1, the game is extremely fun to control. That DS, Game Boy Advance era, best Kirby controls I've ever felt, and I probably still feel that way to this day. I think the new Kirby controls great. I think that these are very, very tight though, and I think that that kind of control in a Kirby game feels super good to me. I think that the inclusion of the squeaks is a really great, just not a great inclusion, but just really expands Dreamland more. Again, anything that kind of expands the lore slash character of Dreamland is really, really important to me, because we sometimes get Kirby games that don't feel like they changed anything at all. And I feel like Kirby Squeak Squad changes that a lot, and gives a lot of character to the squeaks as well. Like, they're not just like, oh, this is like, it's like, this is the one that will chase you in an auto score. This is the one that will beat you up with a spaceship or whatever. There's literally one that does that. What I mean is each one is characterized very, very well. I do think that most of them are like largely unimportant, especially because you only see them sparingly. The biggest, I guess, plus of them is DeRoach, because he is such a foreboding villain. And sort of when you learn his, not even motivations, but kind of how he treats other characters in the series towards the end, you realize he's not really a villain. He is just like literally like a thief. He's like a treasure hunter. And so I think that's kind of cool to kind of give the angle of this character that's supposed to be very villain-like, but he's not really a villain. And then you sort of see that come to fruition right at the end. I think that's very satisfying. I think that all the boss fights in this game are actually very good as well. The only exception being the freaking Firebird. I don't remember his name, but he sucks. He sucks so bad, because if he dives into the lava area and then he sits there and you can't like hit him with anything that's 1, invincible over the lava, or 2, has like a wide hitbox like cutter or something, you basically just have to wait your turn. So that's like the one really bad boss that I remember. But every level in this game is solid. And some people would probably say like they're, you know, pretty unremarkable. And I would agree. But I also think that to that extent, less is more. And they really make it so that in a single playthrough of a level, this is probably where in Kirby, the collectibles are like the easiest they've ever been. And they feel like that influenced a lot of their decisions going forward. Because when you get like a specific copy ability and you've shown it a lot in a level, you're incentivized to kind of get it, and then later on you see, oh, there's this thing I can cut down with Coda to get this chest, or oh, there's this specific stake in the ground, and I saw like a rock area that I was falling down with, and now I can use it because I already have the rock ability to get down here faster. There's a lot of intuitive game design to this game that makes it very, very easy and satisfying to get all the collectibles in the game. And the best thing is that the collectibles actually have purpose. In a lot of games, and in Kirby, a lot of times they'll unlock a secret ending, right? But in this game, and in Amazing Mirror to an extent, they actually unlock something for you, which I feel like is not really the case for like any other Kirby game prior to this point. Giving your player actual rewards for doing the exploration and going through these puzzles. Again, puzzles is probably a strong word, but doing these challenges and succeeding and then making it to the end with this is good. I think that that's a very good game design thing to incentivize a player, make them feel good when playing a game. And I can tell you that's definitely how I felt when I was younger, and I still feel that today, because I can replay this game like millions of times, and again, I always feel good when I play it. One of the things that's a huge gimmick of this game, and is very overlooked, and that's because it's not super important, is the stomach of Kirby. I'm sure that's not probably what most of you would think of, but the bubbles that Kirby keeps in his stomach allow you to keep copy abilities and healing items, and is also where you keep the chests for collectibles. So the only gripe I really do have with that is, one, the idea wasn't really explored as much as it could have been. Having only potential one-ups, collectibles, healing items, and copy abilities, I feel like you could have gotten like maybe one more sort of interesting thing in there. But otherwise, it's mostly passable, with the exception of the fact that you do have to do a lot of organization if you want to get all the collectibles. A lot of times that really does not come down to anything besides the fact that, oh, okay, I guess I have to throw away this copy ability that I was wanting to use. But a lot of times where you go and use that copy ability anyways, again, that's why I feel like that's a very underutilized is not true. It feels untrue because it's exactly what you need for your for the collectibles, but it's not perfected, right? There's definitely some work that could have been done. So I'd acknowledge that that is like a unique part of the game, but it's probably not a thing that necessarily makes it better than other Kirby games. And then probably the final thing that I think is really great are the ability scrolls. Giving your abilities extra moves, again, incentivizes the player. Oh my god, I can actually make my moves better by doing the exploration in this game? This is amazing. The only problem is that some of it is the stupidest thing ever. For example, fire. Pretty sure the fire scroll, when you get it, it allows you to move the fire up and down. Like, why? There could be like so many extra things you could have done with that. Like, I feel like if you really were going to expand it that way, you could incorporate more of the superstar movesets into these copy abilities and give them a whole lot of like extra depth. They decided not to do that. A lot of it's really, really simple, and some of it is satisfying to get. I'd say Cutter is one of the very early ones you get where it actually makes like a significant difference, because Cutter is just huge now and very satisfying to use because it like will like bounce. But a lot of them are huge misses, and the biggest hits are the fusion abilities, where basically I think it's bomb and sword you can mix with elemental copy abilities and get fire, ice, and electric or spark versions of them, which is really cool to just use throughout levels. And then there's wheel that has the same effect, but you have to go over specific terrain to use it, so it's very situational. Still neat though. And I think those are those main three that have that actual fusion mechanic attached to them. And then finally for collectibles, one of them, the main ones you get is the actual copy ability room. So you get to use any copy ability you want. They don't have to like go out and look anywhere, which again, By the time you get that, chances are you will have completed most everything, so no real reason for it. It's basically just for fun. And the last thing, which is again just for fun, is the ghost copy ability, which I think is stupid fun. I used this all the time when I was a kid because I was just like, oh, I wonder what happens when I control this enemy or this character or all this stuff. The problem is that that is not going to be interesting for anybody who isn't under the age of like 10. By the time you've gotten the ghost copy ability, you're not going to be playing the game anymore because you've probably beaten it. And 2, it really does nothing. It does like a whole lot of nothing. It's not a good copy ability. You get to control an enemy and it's like, that's it. So there's just a lot of kind of flavor that's as a part of it. That doesn't make the flavor good though. So I really love the ghost copy ability though. I think it's super interesting. I partially wish they bring it back and then make it a sort of cool concept for a future game where it would be like, be more involved. The only issue is that the replacement for that now is basically just being able to play as helper characters, which was already established back in Superstar. So, and then the final thing, which unfortunately I think is the biggest weakness, is the story. Over time, I have come to realize how actually bad Kirby Squeak Squad story is. Kirby is characterized extremely poorly in this game because he is not like violent, but he's almost like super. And again, this is like, you know, a probably weird thing to go about saying. It's like, oh, well, characterization in Kirby games, you're playing a Kirby game. No, but for real though, Kirby is like the most out of character he's ever been in this game. Like he immediately assumes DDD is like the villain. He is so insistent on getting this piece of cake back, despite the fact that he's a glutton. He can eat anything. Like he can find something anywhere else. It's not he's not the kind of character who would be like actually mad or anything for this stuff. So him going on that journey is already sort of uncharacteristic in itself. So it's a really weird nitpick, but I actually do super see why people dislike the game for this reason. And the other huge downside is that the final boss is actually trash. I thought this game had a good final boss. It's not. It's probably one of the weakest in the entire series. And it's weird because the boss fight just before it, which is like DeRoach, who is consumed by like the dark energy from the star and is able to use like all of these extra powered up versions of his moves and things like that, is an actual good and challenging boss fight. But then you go to the final boss, who is not only a huge pushover, but just does like nothing. He is very like he does not like engage with the player at all. He does his thing, you dodge it and you hit him. It is the most like bare bones form of like a platformer combat, which is just bleh. Even so, I love this game. I love this game to death. This is my guilty pleasure game. I think this is the only one up there that I can say is like that big of a guilty pleasure. Because I place this game in like my top 10. And most people in their top 10 would actually have good, reasonable games. But no, I would put this in my top 10 games of all time because I just love this game so much. I can play it infinitely. It does not matter how good it is or how bad it is. Whatever your bias is towards this game, you can put it at the bottom of the list. I would still play it. I don't care. So, again, ranted about that for a really long time. But I did feel like it was reasonable to tell you why I really enjoy this game. But also acknowledge most of the pitfalls for it. So, actually moving on, we can go to our first S. Kirby Superstar Ultra is, again, probably what most people would contend. Superstar could be better. But I think, like, on the balance scale, the weight is more towards Superstar Ultra. This game is Superstar, but better. And it gets so much more expanded. It has more modes. I mean, it still has the multiplayer aspect, which again, I mean, some people took advantage of, some people couldn't. It wasn't really a local game that you played like a normal Superstar. But the arena, the true arena, like those really made the game and set the standard for like Kirby content moving forward. So not only is this like a super faithful remake that does have a lot of the charm, like retains a lot of the charm of the original, adds a bunch of new stuff, including new modes, and allows you to actually challenge yourself, which most Kirby games did not have at all back then. The challenge was beating the game or completing the game, and both of those things were not usually hard. I'd say the thing before that was like Amazing Mirror, but again, the difficulty in that game was completing it. That was it. That's if you wanted to spend time to complete it. And I guess you could say the same for like the Dreamland games, because, you know, the only thing that would really hold you back from completing those was just like the obtuse puzzles, and that's it. Astral Pink, thank you, R4. I mean, what? I see you. And I'll be honest, I don't know how much I have to say about this game, because Superstar is already phenomenal. I've talked about it. And Superstar Ultra is just that, but better. It just has more. And I mean, what is the extra mode? The other extra mode that's really added is like the Meta Knight. Is it called Meta Nightmare? I don't remember. Anyways, you get to play as Meta Knight, and you get to go through like a mini story with him. And it's like, is it necessary? No, but that's awesome. It's cool. It gives you a lot of replayability to the game. And it's like a time attack mode too. And it has like a special feature where like you can do special moves and things like that. Like it completely changed, like despite it feeling, you know, it's like, oh, this is just Sword Kirby with wings. No, it actually changes how you fundamentally play through levels, how you treat your like energy meter and things like that when you want to use it and all this stuff. So it is really good. Doubleman, do the marathon again. I wasn't looking. No. I have VODs for that. Anyways, Doubleman, hi, how you doing? Oh, bought it. Was that cooked in a buzz? What's the game in Do Not Play? No. Did not play. That's Kirby Superstar Stacker, I think. It's the sequel to Star Stacker. That's the one where it's like, I mean, I just literally can't because it's like a Japanese only exclusive. I mean, if you want to know the games in like Do Not Play, I mean, these two are basically the only ones. I think you can play them. I would not say you should. Don't go out of your way to play these games first if you want to get introduced to Kirby. That's all I'll say. Honest goodness, yeah, I really do not have anything else to say about Superstar Ultra because it's just phenomenal. The upgrades in all aspects, both the music. Well, I mean, some people would probably say the music in regular Superstar is better, but I still think it's good. DS had a good sound trip, had good stuff. Visuals are great. Extra content, all is great. Literally nothing about it is like worse than the original. And then it's portable, and it has the True Arena, which had a huge influence on Kirby from here on out. So, yeah. I bumped Adventure and its remake down a tier, but this is a solid list. Well, again, I think I do have a lot of differing opinions. Squeak Squad would probably not be this far up. Some people would probably not put 64 this far up. I think the reason, if you want my justification, I think the weight of Kirby's Adventure is super influential in the series and is part of the reason why I have it that high. And it's also just a good game. Like, there's nothing really terrible about it. So that's why I have it that high. And I think that I only leave this here because it's a remake of that. Like, there's nothing inherently worse about it. Not in my mind, so. Honestly, I don't think Air Ride, Nightmare, and Dreamland are in the same tier. But yeah, again, I can definitely move things. I already have in this list. So, there will definitely be a lot of thought and justification later on. Now, here is you thought Squeak Squad was bad? This may be the biggest hot take. This may be the biggest hot take ever. I think that this game belongs here. So, I will defend this game until the end of time that it is a good platformer. And I do absolutely think that there's a place for platformers that do not have a lot of challenge. I do not think that this is a thing that should be for every platformer, because the best way to describe it is that there are very few games in this niche, and I feel like there should be a game that exists for that. So the huge difficulty curve literally that does not exist. It is a flat line that is all the way at the bottom of the x-axis. I don't think that that's a bad thing, though. I think that this doesn't make the game good. I don't think that this makes the game enjoyable for a lot of people, but I actually do think that it is reasonable that it is a game that exists. I will definitely put a lot of... I think that going back to a platformer that does not actually use copy abilities is a very interesting spin that kind of allows Kirby Epic Yarn to stand on its own, besides the amazing art style. This game looks beautiful. The music is very memorable in it. It has some of the most calm, comfy music you will ever hear in a Kirby game. But again, a lot of people overlook that and say, okay, well, this game has no challenge. This is like a game that you can beat in like 2 or 3 hours and it's super unremarkable. I think to an extent, yes, that is true. The bosses in the game are just okay. The actual collectibles that you can get in the game, even less okay, because they're really just to decorate a house, which is kind of like a side story mission that really doesn't do a whole lot. And then the final boss, Yin Yarn, is just like a goofball, and he doesn't like pertain to the Kirby story in any other way past like this game. So there are like a bunch of things that do weigh this game down. However, I think that for one, I do think that the visual style and the music of this game elevate it a whole lot. That's what basically like makes this game so memorable. And again, I feel like for some of the games down here in C and D, like they don't even have that, which is definitely why I've ranked this game pretty decent in terms of like, oh yeah, these are Kirby games that you should definitely play. I almost want to do this. I think I will. But yeah, I think it's just like, and again, I'm going to give a whole lot of credit to the actual dev team for Good Feel for getting the feel of a Kirby game so right when it doesn't have copy abilities. Bump Dreamland 3 up a tier. I don't know if I can do that. Again, we'll look back at it all. I don't know if I can do that. Not yet. But I think like the car form, being able to have different like sort of vehicles you use through the game, being able to turn to the parachute, all this kind of stuff feels very reminiscent of having a cop ability, but now it's just built into like a moveset for Kirby to actually use. I think the yarn whip mechanic is really satisfying. Twirling enemies up into a little ball just feels so good. Sound design for it is also amazing. There's a lot of stuff about it that does elevate it, despite the fact that it does have a lot of weaknesses. And even though I think a lot of people would rate it down here, maybe even here, I still think that this is a very excellent game. It is just very, very different, and I understand that it is divisive. And I do think that me placing it does have, it's not even bias, it's not bias and it's not preference. It's just like an acknowledgement that I think that this game does what it does very well. This game is catered towards a very specific audience, and that specific audience is going to love this game. But anybody outside it will probably just think it's okay, and even more going into critic-wise will think that it is actually bad. Which I do not think I do not think is true. I do not think that this game can be said bad, even at the harshest critic level. But I do understand that why it would be further down on a lot of people's lists. Like I said, Kirby Breath of the Wild. Yeah, Breath of the Wild for Kirby games. So yeah, again, I won't go too much further into it. I think a lot of my justifications are at least reasonable. If you don't agree, that's completely fine. I completely think that people should say their own opinions, especially when it comes to games, because I think it leads to a very interesting discussion. But I do think that this game is very divisive for very obvious reasons. Moving on. We're going to go into Kirby Mass Attack. And this game is honestly along the lines of Kirby's Canvas Curse, which makes me kind of want to place it near it. And I think that's where I'm gonna put it for now. Mass Attack is such a interesting game because it follows the Kirby formula very closely, but it doesn't have copy abilities, and it is the same as Canvas Curse in that it's almost completely reliant on the touchscreen. Yo, Ender, how's it going? Hopefully you're having a good night tonight. We're going through and having some hot takes, I think. Yeah, exactly. Okay, is that for Mass Attack? Because yeah, it's not a bad game by any means, but it's definitely like another kind of unremarkable game. The villain in the game is like very unremarkable, not super memorable. Doesn't really have any other impact outside of the game that they were included in. Soundtrack is good. I think it's fine. It's kind of got that DS era charm. The main theme is definitely the one you're going to remember the most. Because it's played like so frequently. And I think that even like the puzzle solving elements and the challenge of actually keeping Kirby's to get certain collectibles in the game is good. I think that makes for good game design. My issue is that in the same vein as Kirby's Dream Land 2 and 3, it is weird how this game actually shares two main complaints I have with the other Dream Land games. And that is that it has some kind of obtuse puzzles, which, the completion requirement for the game is not super strict, but there are a lot of times where it still feels like there are unfair times in the game where you are either just in a room where a bunch of your Kirbys were forced to die and you have to keep them all to like the end of a level to be able to actually get the specific coin for the completion of the level, or just like super unfair levels and weird game design. The skeleton appears. The skeleton appears is like one of the songs in the game. There are levels in that game that are so unbelievably frustrating. And there are some just like ridiculous times where it's like they give you okay checkpoints and then suddenly it's like, oh no, you die, you have to play almost the entire level over again. And it feels bad. It feels really bad. I know the level in particular that I got stuck on towards the end that had like that swimming section where it was like so tight if you wanted to get like the actual air bubbles and stuff that come out so that way you can just live through it, and trying to get the collectibles on top of that was like near impossible. That kind of stuff is just really, really, really frustrating. But, and that comes up a couple times. It's not just once. But I think overall the game is fine. A lot of the times they make use of the multiple Kirbys to good extents in terms of like level design and puzzle aspects and stuff like that. But they do have problematic levels and problematic puzzles, which can make the game very frustrating to play through sometimes. And again, like Dreamland 2 and 3, basically if you want to beat the game, with 2 and 3 you can beat the game and you'll be just fine. But if you want to basically get towards the end of the game and actually beat it, you have to get your collectibles. And I think that that's a rough ask. And actually, you know what? That's something I should go back for Squeak Squad. Squeak Squad is actually a game that requires you to have collectibles to progress in the story. The thing is that they're super easy to find. They are very noticeable. There's literally like no way for you to miss them. They're like in giant chests, and those chests glow. So like that, you know exactly where they are. But in Mass Attack, it's basically like, oh well, if you just rush through the game a little bit too much, you have to go back. And it's like, where there are all the Japanese box arts for this game, because this tier list is the only one that I was able to find that had all of the Kirby games in it. And it was just like literally a tier list of the Kirby box arts. So that's why. I was basically forced to use this one mainly. I'll return to see the final list. Bye. So yes, so I think Mass Attack is good, although I think alongside like most of these other games, probably here and down, these are games that you can skip. You know what? I'm gonna do it. Because I do think this is definitely, like, of these so far, it's like the weakest 2D platformer that Kirby's had. Moving on, yes, S tier game. It's not S tier, I'm sorry. It is... Ooh, actually, where would I put this? Ooh. I think I have to put it here. You didn't take the time to create your own custom tier lists. Remake has to be yes. Yes. Remake has to be yes. I mean, that's the only reason why I'm putting it here. I mean, but again, so going into the game, if you do not play Kirby's Dream Land Deluxe, Return to Dream Land Deluxe, and you only have the Wii version to play, you're still gonna have a great time. It has a bunch of content in it. It has a ton of mini games for you to play. Has a bunch of level content to go through. Has the arena and the true arena to go through. Has a bunch of challenge stages for you to actually, like, you know, have a challenge for Kirby games, which is not come by very often. There are the mini games that you can enjoy. I think I already may have mentioned that. And then the co-op aspect of it is so integral to that game. It is so important to it. Ignoring my personal bias, this was a bit weak when it came to the true arena. I think it was probably fine. It was probably weaker than Superstar Ultra's True Arena, but I mean, I don't think that brings it down like, oh, that's why this is only an A game. No, it's only an A game because we have this game right here, which I feel like most people are going to know. Yeah, so I think that Return to Dreamland just does a lot right, and it really does not have any faults to it. Some people might say like that the super abilities, like the super copy abilities you get of each of the like the normal ones, which is like sword and fire and ice and hammer. Some people might say that those are kind of like superfluous, but I mean, it really does give Return to Dreamland its identity, and I feel like, again, that's the one thing that's super important for Kirby games. You have to have something to recognize it by, and even if it's just something like a gimmick, that is incredibly important when it comes to those games. And I think that this game also has an exceptional soundtrack, which definitely bumps it up very high. Its visual style is also pretty good for the Wii era. I don't think it's like the best it could have been, but again, it's on the Wii. It's fine. Magloire as a villain, or sort of a twist villain in the game, is pretty good. There aren't a whole lot of times where that's actually happened in Kirby games so far. I mean, just going back through it, a lot of the people you run into are either like villains from the very start, or they're just like misunderstood. Like, you know, King Dedede stealing the Star Rod, but oh, it was actually this other guy. And then Deroche being a villain, and it's like, well, he's not really a villain, he's just a treasure hunter. And I mean, again, some people would say like, yeah, to an extent, that's a villain. But I mean, his motivations are less villain. He's not like an actual thief for the most part. Besides stealing Kirby's cake, which I'm not really sure why he did that anyways. Anyways, again, that story is really weird, and again, one of the reasons that people could put it down here and like see. People could very reasonably put this game here, but I won't because I love this game. So. Sought out Ninja's Katana for Ninjato, which nerfed the range for no reason. Here's the thing, I cannot like rate Kirby games based on their abilities and stuff like that. It has to be like core gameplay and stuff. There are very few cases where I might make that exception, but the problem is that if I do that, we'd be here for a long time. So. All right. So, honestly, I do not have much else to say about it. Boss fights in this game, boss fights in Return to Dreamland were great. I think the EX mode was also good too. It did actually provide a bit of a challenge. So, hot take, this is an A. Well, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put it in did not play, because I did not play it for the marathon. If I did put it, I would probably put it in high B, because this game is, it is literally what it is put out to be. It is a collection. It is a collection of the first Kirby game. So it's Kirby's Adventure, or Kirby's Return to Dream, or Kirby's Dream Land, Kirby's Adventure, and Kirby Dream Land 2 and 3. And I think that's it. I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah. So, with that in mind, it's really just a collection, and a lot of these games now are very accessible. But why I would potentially put it up here and be, come on. Okay. Why I would potentially put it in B is that, exactly what you're talking about. So, the big thing was that it had challenge stages. And a lot of that does give it a lot of extra content to go through. The problem is that it's not a whole lot extra if you've already played Return to Dreamland. There's not a whole lot about it that really makes it unique compared to that game. The little one thing that it has, well, two things that it has. The one thing that it has on Return to Dreamland is because it has a Smash challenge stage. And that is phenomenal, because again, Smash is one of my favorite copy abilities, so I will definitely give it a plus just for that regard. I can't put it in S tier or anything stupid like that, but I do think it's really good that it does actually introduce more that was actually in Return to Dreamland from the base. And then there are also extra content features in it. So being able to see the whole Kirby timeline on when games came out and stuff like that. I think that there are literally episodes from Right Back At You that you can watch in this collection. That's cool too. Is it, again, just like a little cherry on top on like the other content you're getting? Sure, but it's something for you to do, right? So despite it being like, probably, if you want me to like rate this collection in terms of like other, like all other video game collections out there, it's probably like a 7. The games in it are all like very classic. They're not, you know, meant to have like, this is the best of Kirby. This is just classic Kirby, more accessible in this time period. You don't have to go to freaking, you don't have to go to a used game store, buy it. You don't have to go to the God, I was going to say the eShop. You don't have to go to the Wii Shop channel and buy the games individually. You can just buy this and you're good. And you have extra stuff. But again, I'm not really going to rate it, so that I didn't super dive into it. I played this game to play these classic games. Oh, no, Kirby 64 was also on there. So, I mean, I guess that bumps it up a little bit. But again, it's a lot of classic games, right? There's nothing about it is going to give you a whole lot of new content to bite and chew on. So, I really don't think that this game deserves to be super high. But I mean, for its value, it's fine. And you also, if you got the actual collection, it comes with like a soundtrack, which is like, it's good, but that doesn't impact the game at all. They really update the game as a more virtual console selection. Exactly, right. They don't give you anything extra on it. It's just like, okay, this is a more convenient way for you to buy all of the classic Kirby games. And like, that's it. And well, you have some bonus content, which is like, has a bunch of the challenge stages and then actual like concept art stuff, episodes for you to watch, this cool timeline. So, it's good. I won't spend too much time on it again. So, next game is Kirby's Return to Triple Deluxe. No, Kirby Triple Deluxe. And I think probably and reasonably, this is one of the weaker Kirby platformers, but I think I would still probably rate it above. Ooh. Do I actually? I'm gonna put it here because that's like a for sure, right? Honorable mentioned here because it was the reason Morpho Knight came around. I don't mean, it wasn't the reason Morpho Knight came around, because I mean, the concept art existed, so like they could have chosen to do that whether they shared it in the collection or not, right? 25th anniversary crying in the corner, as it should. Jesus. Okay, let me talk about the game and maybe I'll actually come to more of a conclusion. Triple Deluxe main gimmick is that you give even more suck. It's fine. I mean, you turn a rainbow and then you get to like suck up anything in the level, which I think is really cool. But it's really along the lines of like New Super Mario Bros. When I think about it. It's like you get to turn into huge Mario and crush the level, and like you can destroy the blocks and the pipes, the enemies, and you can just completely run through. Kirby's is just like that, but slower. Because when you use the inhale, you just slow down, but you're able to suck up everything. And that does give like a good bit of spectacle to it. Probably more so than like New Super Mario Bros. Because again, it's usually just like, you're just running and things are getting destroyed. But when in Triple Deluxe, it feels like you're having an actual impact because things are animated very fluidly in a specific way. But overall, this game is just like a big good. I don't know if anything about this game is like super phenomenal. The collectibles in this game are just fine. I think this one's the one that has like the keychains, which are good and give like some good street pass functionality. I think that that's fine. The level design and a lot of the themes in the game are okay. They're really not anything out of the ordinary for a Kirby game, except for kind of the carnival level that it goes with. Oh my god. No, we're not to that yet. Come on. Not there quite yet. And then this, I do think that this is an actual thing that should be rated before the game. I think the 3D is actually pretty good for this. It's a gimmick, but it does have very good utilization in this game, and does give the game already, you know, goes for a lot of 2.5D platforming with the depth of field, but I think it does just very well in general. And then I think one of the weaker parts of the game is that it does have like forced motion controls for a lot of it, which I think is fine. I mean, it's just like a superfluous thing. It's like, okay, well, instead of pressing left or right, you tilt it left or right. Cool. I think that the story of this game is good. I don't think it's amazing, but it's good. Yeah, let's do this. I'm feeling good with this so far. I think the content in Triple Deluxe is also fine. It's not amazing, but it has some pretty reasonable stuff to it. Minigames are fun. Which, speaking of which, we have the little minigames over here that become their full-fledged eShop games. I think that the final boss for it is awesome. I think that, God, I wanted to say Pheromosa, freaking Pokemon. I think the final boss for it is super, like, impactful. I think the spectacle for it, for the finale, is great. The only issue is that it really gets outplayed by a lot of the games that come after. So, for the time, the ending and finale for the game was really great. But now it's just, like, kind of okay. And that unfortunately, like, just kind of degraded it with time. The keychains, again, kind of going back to those, I think it's super cool that they decided to make a lot of the referential stuff with it. They could have just made it like, oh, okay, there's a bunch of like concept art we can just throw in here and this stuff like that. But no, it's like stuff from actual old Kirby games where it feels like you're getting like an actual collection along with the stuff. Do they really serve any purpose? No, not really. But I mean, they're fun. They're fun to get. And then they're the, what is that? Well, no, you're not collecting like the gears in the game because that's what the, that's not a robot. I don't know. It's just like, it's fine. It's fun. There's nothing like, I think that this is like probably the bar, like the gatekeeper for like a game, a Kirby game being like great. Cause I mean, it's like just in between great and good. I think most people would agree. So we have the 2NES games, which is Kirby Fighter Deluxe and Kirby and DDD's Drum Dash. Here's where Fighter Deluxe goes, because I did not play this game. I have it, but I do not have it easily accessible to stream or do anything with. But if I rated it, it would probably be something like right... It'd probably be like right here. This game is like so nothing. It's discount Smash Brothers. There's not a lot of copy abilities in it at all to really experiment with, and to my knowledge, there's not even really a main campaign to bite your teeth into a lot either. Oh my gosh, you thought you meant keychain the Twitch. I kind of figured, I wondered when one of you would bring it up. No. I really have a whole lot of nothing to say about this game because one, I didn't play it, and two, I think it would actually like rank really low. I really do not think that there's anything phenomenal about this game. Then we have DDD's Drum Dash. I am a sucker for rhythm games. And this rhythm game actually has a bunch of unique stuff to it. The problem is, that it is so bare bones. There is like a whole lot of nothing to it, which is why I think it goes here. Again, I think that overall, it's a good game, but if you're spending stuff on the eShop game, you better be sure that you're gonna like it, because if you were just buying all of the Kirby games and you bought this, I don't know that you'd like it if you don't like rhythm games, because that's what this is. I think the remixes and stuff for it is fine, but the levels for it is just so... It's pretty pathetic, honestly. It's not that the game design of it is bad. I think that the game itself is really fun. The problem is that it is extremely short. The extra content you get is pretty much just rehashed difficult versions of the stages you've already played. And once you figure out like the main depth from maybe the second or third level onwards, that's about all you get. There's really nothing else. You can tell that this was a very budget title, and that is basically what holds it back the most. It has a really unique premise, but it's not going to influence anybody to go out and buy this game. I don't think anybody was popping off when they saw DDD Drum Dash, besides the fact that DDD is basically the main character of it. And then we move on to Kirby and Rainbow Curse. This game, it's really weird because I don't know, and again, I'm just putting it here for now. I honestly don't know if I'd rate this higher or lower than Canvas Curse. Because I think Canvas Curse has a lot going for it because it was the first of its kind in like this style of game. And like the music for it was really different compared to like the rest of the Kirby games. The obviously the visual style was really different. Wait, did I miss Robot? No, Robot's not here yet. Robot came out after Rainbow Curse. Rainbow Curse came out first. And honestly, I think I'm gonna put it here. And I think a lot of people might get on my case and say, oh, but Canvas Curse and this are the exact same. And it's like, I really disagree. I think that the gamepad is probably a little bit easier to use than the DS screen, because obviously it's bigger and you have a little bit more control and agency to like where you're drawing your lines and stuff. There you can allow yourself a little bit more precision and leeway. The problem is like Rainbow Curse is definitely better than Canvas. Drawsia Clears, Dark Crafter. Canvas Curse also introduced soul bosses with the future games, took inspiration from that. Rainbow Curse and nothing. Oh, you said below Canvas. My bad. My bad. I think I have reversed that for some reason. Yeah, it's just like, this game has an identity. This game's identity is that it's just a sequel to this game. Like, there's really nothing about this game that, like, speaks to anyone and leaves a lasting impression otherwise than that it's, like, it's another Canvas Curse and it had multiplayer to it. Like, that's it. It has some good music in it. Most Kirby games have good music, though. So, I'm not going to say that, like, this should automatically get, like, rated any higher than, like, some of these. Because these games have good music. The problem is that doesn't make this game good. Also, the final boss was rude. Yeah, it's the final boss. It don't really matter. I honestly really do not have much to say about this game. Its controls about the same as Canvas Curse, just again with a little bit more leniency because you have more space and control with the stylus. But nothing about the game really leaves more of a lasting impression. And the collectibles in the game are like I can't even tell you what the collectibles did. Maybe they were what you needed to unlock the other levels. I don't know. Again, this game was such a blur to me. And I really only remember the final boss and like maybe the rocket ship levels. Cause yeah, you could turn into like some different things. Like you turn into like the you turn into like the little tank and you did stuff. There was a bunch of stuff that was added to the game, but none of it was really phenomenal. So I think right here I'm actually pretty confident with this. Honestly, because of bias, I would probably switch these, but I think that this is more reasonable. And then we have Robobot. So this is something I'm going to have to decide at the end. I think right now I'm going to do this because Robobot is such a solid game, dude. It has so much to it. And it's really unfair because, again, both of these games have, like, excellent content. Anything here in the S is, like, super amazing. And for those of you who are coming in a little late, I did specify that I'm only going to include 3 games here in S. The thing is that's really easy. Pretty much everybody knows, like, what games should go here in S. One day I'll play Robobot, I swear. You should. I don't think you should be in a rush to play the game, but you should. Give it a chance. Robobot, what is there to not say about it? 1, it has Smash in it. That means that it's automatic S tier. It has one of the most involved stories in a Kirby game. And I'm not just talking about like, oh, it has a huge impact on the lore and stuff like that. And there's so much that it kind of reveals and things like, no, this game just has a good story. Like it has a very reasonable story. There are side characters in it who actually have motivations and things that go towards the end of the game. The villain, despite being, you know, kind of like, you don't know, like, you ever really see him until the end. He has like an actual like plan and a motivation to him as well. Which again, you end up seeing like the literal fruition of that, like how it ends up corrupting him and all of this stuff. Like, there is no other Kirby game that's really gone this far, except for maybe Return to Dreamland. But even then, I still think Robobot does that better. Jet Fly mode directly into S. I mean, this game is just amazing. There's literally like nothing bad to say about it. Extra modes are awesome. There's nothing like I can immediately say that's bad about the game. Like, no levels in the game made me frustrated. A lot of the bosses in it are super memorable. The actual gimmick of the Robobot mech suit is so incredibly fun, giving like a bunch of the copy abilities like these really intricate ways of incorporating them into the Robobot suit is amazing. I suppose a weakness you could say is that not every copy ability got to mix with the Robobot suit. That's fair, but I don't think that is a harsh, a harsh check on the game or whatever. I think that's just kind of something where it's like, we can only do so much with what we have, and, you know, doing too much would almost feel bloated. So I think where they had it is a good balance. I mean, the ending of the game, like, God, like, what else? Again, this is like freaking peak Kirby ending, dude. It is insane. There are very few games that like are just this super well-rounded in like content, in music, in gameplay. Again, I usually don't want to like go too much into it, but the copy abilities in this game, there's so much variance here that really allows it to like shine. This is just an excellent game. Excellent game. How are you not finished? Because I like to ramble. That's it. But it have the Kirby Clash tie-in, though. It's funny you say that. Yeah, this is technically where Kirby Clash originated, because it was the side game. Which, I mean, I guess I can go ahead and rank it, because I don't have any more to say about Robot. It's phenomenal. Everything it does for the Kirby series and everything it has done moving forward has had like a huge influence. And really the only misstep that they've had for like a main Kirby series is Star Allies, which I'll get to in a second. So, Team Kirby Clash, did not play it. I still think it's good. It's probably like, over here. I think. It's very much like a freemium game. If you want to play it, you can. It's got the energy stuff allotted to it, and it's like well, I guess. But I mean, the main thing is that you're going to be fighting a whole bunch of boss fights, and that the copy abilities are given some pretty unique effects that really do not have a whole lot of specialty in like other games. Like it feels like they very much catered each ability to be more unique in this game. The weaker ones are like sword and hammer because they really are just like the damaging ones, but Time Mage and Doctor, which I guess I don't remember what it's actually just called. Is it like a healer in the game? Anyways, potion healer. Whatever the case is, those actually have like very intricate places in like the roster if like you were going to make an actual team. So I think it's good. But I mean, it's not. You're not going to see me put it as like the best Kirby game. So this is fun though. Kirby's Blood Blast. I think that this goes probably. I'll put it here. I think that of like the side games that Kirby has, this is probably the best one. It's really short, but it's like the perfect sort of time attack, high score based Kirby game that really does harken back to the original and was a very different change of pace for it. It's like a precursor to Forgotten Land. The music in this game is great. A lot of it is a very unique rendition of the old Dreamland and Adventure music, and it's good. I really don't think it's amazing, but I do think that it's probably better than these games down here, because again, most of these are either like or just don't really have an identity or fit into a niche that's kind of not something that I like recommend you play. And again, I'm putting it at the bottom of the list for B, so I'm not like saying, oh yeah, you need to go out and play this, but yeah. And then we have Battle Royale, which can go right here. Kirby's Battle Royale is like the most nothing game ever, and I'm sure that for those of you who watch it, you probably agree. This game is like meant to be Kirby's version of Mario Party, but it has no soul to it. You have maybe like 6 or 7 game modes that you repeat over and over and over throughout the story mode until you get to the very end. And it's just that. It's just that with like, oh, you beat it in this time and then, oh, you beat it and you don't take damage. Oh, you did. Nothing about this game is good. This game is like the most, and again, it's like the end of the 3DS era. So some people would argue, okay, well, you know, they kind of have to get out there one last game for the 3DS before it dies. They really didn't. They didn't have to. They didn't have to put out this game. I don't know what they were wanting to accomplish this game. With this game, I don't know who this was supposed to cater towards. I think that the idea of it was super phenomenal, but it died on release because the Switch was already getting a whole lot of attention, so nobody played this game online. If you tried to find people play this game online, I bet you will not. If this were a Switch game and also made free to play, I think it would do significantly better. But they instead did a $40 price tag for a game with very little content. It has customization, but that doesn't make a Kirby game. That like enhances an experience by like 2%. The main game needs to be like actually good for it to do anything and have an identity. It's just you fight as Kirby against other Kirbys, and it's 3D, but it's also like very scuffed. What game was this? This is Battle Royale. I put it in D because it's unremarkable, and I also don't think it's good. Like I think these games have a place because at least like there's a niche that it kind of caters to. This game just has nothing, and the release window for it did no favors. I do not think this game is good. Again, all these three, it's like that. Some people could say like, oh, this game is good, but like, I think it suffers heavily from Game Boy era difficulty. This game is like an experiment test that really did not stick the landing, but I mean, it's playable, I guess. It's a unique experience. And then this game is just nothing. It's a game where you do the exact same things for about How long did it take me? Like 2.5 hours to beat it, and like nothing happened. There's the best thing about it was like the final boss, but even that was like whatever. So we're moving on, and we're going to talk about probably the next largest elephant in the room, and that's Star Allies. And I made a review long ago. I do not recommend you watch that review. Not because my ideas have changed, but because it's bad. And I think that it goes probably right here. Part of me wants to rate it above Dreamland, but I think I would make a lot of people angry by doing that. So, I really don't think that this game was a miss in terms of like Kirby's, library and stuff like that. I think it's fine. This is definitely one of the weakest games that has been released for him though. And I do want to say that as much as I was super invested in the combination gimmick of the game, it's very lifeless, man. I want to say, I still think it's good, but man, they could have done so much more with it. If they leaned more into the style of Kirby 64 and actually give specific abilities like very unique attributes when you have a combination for it, like that would have made this game like 10 times better. But for some reason they decided to just stop it at, okay, you have elemental versions of abilities, and occasionally there are like very specific combinations like psychic and, or is it just psi? Just psi and rock, and you can like pick up a rock and then smash it down, and it's just like, is that it? I think the level design in Kirby and Star Allies is actually fine. It's actually pretty good. I think that the soundtrack in this game is also very good. I think that the multiplayer is also fine. This is one of the very few Kirby games besides Return to Dreamland that I actually have played with friends, and it was fun. It was fun. The problem is that like for the gimmick itself, it really does not shine at all. Because where the actual gimmick really lies is being able to play as all the other characters. Playing as everybody else except Kirby is where this game actually has like a really reasonable, merit and differentiate it from it. Because in most games you can play as your partner characters, which is fine. That allows for, some difference in playing through the game. But being able to play as like any of like many of the characters from Kirby, like Adeline from frickin' 64, you can play as DeRoach from Kirby Squeeze Squad, you can play as Gooey from Dreamland 2, you can play as the combo of Rick, Kine, and Koo from Dreamland 2. Like, that is such a phenomenal idea. It is done so well. The problem is that they shoehorn them to a single place in the game where you can only get them occasionally. They call this game Star Allies, but it's like they put too much of a focus on like the regular party members when I really think it should have been on like the other like friends that Kirby has made along the way. And yeah, like Doubleman said, going further with, like, if you're not going to do that, if you're not going to make the friends of Kirby, what are they called? Dream Friends? Is that what it is? If you're not going to make the Dream Friends the main actual focus point of the game, make it so that the combination abilities are actually more engaging. Because they're just not. They aren't. Some abilities have like very unique kind of effects when they're changed. I think Wind is probably the most unique one when you add it to any copy ability, because it usually like makes them rise, or it makes a huge gust of air that blows outwards, or it makes you fly up when you use a move. I think things like that are good. But if they leaned more into 64, where it actually like changes how both abilities work and makes it into something new, it'd be amazing. The problem is that's also a lot of work. I kind of get that that's the reason. I feel like that's the reason why they didn't do it. Which is, it's fine. But I think that that hurts the game in the long run because this game is very, 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 very unremarkable, and people really don't talk about it much. Besides the fact that it's just a Kirby game. So I still think that Star Allies is good. I still enjoy most of the modes that are in the game. I don't think that there's anything inherently terrible about it because I think everything else is fine. It is just that the gimmick is weak, and the gimmick is what normally makes a Kirby game like the most interesting. That's what makes the Kirby game. That's what solidifies its identity. And Star Allies unfortunately doesn't do that. Or well, it kind of does it, but it just doesn't do it well. So that's why most people skip that on. So going forward, another game, we're going to like more eShop games. Game that we did actually play, or all of these games we did play, is Super Kirby Clash. And I think it probably goes like here. You know what? No, I can't rate it that high. I can't. I refuse to. Yellow, I'm sorry. Wait, hold the phone. Oh, are you gonna say you're not putting an S tier? At least B, please. Here's the thing. I think that Kirby Clash is a very good game. It's very accessible. The freemium is fine. It really is not that overbearing. It doesn't force you to do anything for buying gem apples. And buying gem apples, there is actual value in doing it. It's not like other games where it's like you get a loot box and maybe it improves your stuff. No, when you buy something in this game, it will improve your experience. What game is yellow mulling over? Super Kirby Clash. The thing is that this game, like, and here's the biggest offender. It is built for online, and the online is utter garbage. You try and play this game with other people, you will not have a good time. You're very unlikely to have a good time. Let me rephrase that. You can have a good time, but most of the time you're gonna have to actually pair with friends to be able to have a decent experience. Because for a game to be primarily multiplayer focused, it is not good. The multiplayer is not solid. If you're gonna have a multiplayer game like this, you have to have good online. This does not have good online. It doesn't. If you play with friends, it's fine. It's tolerable. But even when you play with friends, sometimes it's not good. Somehow logged so many hours in the game because the gameplay loop was addicting. Exactly. See, I think that the core thing of this game, and this is actual bias. This is just Kirby Monster Hunter. And that's like the worst way to describe it, but it literally is. It's just that it's a bunch of bosses and mid-bosses primarily. And then some bosses you have to fight. And a lot of it is interesting, right? And then you have the specific aspect of each of the four main classes to level up and be able to get extra gear for and all this other stuff. And that makes it a very fulfilling experience. You see the growth. You see yourself getting stronger. The game encourages you to continue and get shards and do all this stuff. The gameplay loop is good. I agree. But not everybody wants to play this game solo. And I feel like most people, when they play this game, they pick it up, they play it for a little bit, they go online to try and play with some other people. They see that the online is not good, and then they're like, okay, well, now I really don't have any motivation to continue playing the game because I'm not like a Kirby fan or whatever, and they drop it. I do not think that this game has anything to keep people playing unless you are already a fan of Kirby. Or unless you just pick it up and you actually really do like the gameplay loop. But I do not think that this game is for everybody. And that's like my harsh criticism of it. If I was rating it, if I rated it with like full personal bias, I probably would put it in B. But I don't think I can. Smash 3DS lowered my standards, huh? I mean, I guess. I don't know. It's just we need... This is not Kirby specifically. We need Nintendo games nowadays that do not have so much inherent lag. I refuse to believe that we are this far into the internet infrastructure of games and we're paying for a service that still has very poor internet connection. Splatoon 3, for example, we still have like major disconnects like during matches or just in lobbies. This is not something that should happen like every time you boot up the game. It's really not. I don't know. So, anyways, I think that the main thing that hurts this is the fact that it's a multiplayer game that does not have good multiplayer. I'm sorry. Yo, JMC, what's going on? Welcome to my TED Talk, aka I rant about Kirby for 2 hours. Probably coming on like 2 hours and 40 minutes if I had to guess. Hopefully you're doing good. Yeah. Nice to see you. Hopefully you've been good. Tell us about any Kirby opinions you got about the tier list so far. I've actually got things pretty even, which I'm feeling pretty satisfied about. But we're definitely going into the next game, and yeah, this is a did not play, and if I were to rate this, I'd probably put it right here. And here's why. I have not played this game. I don't know if it's actually any better or worse. I honestly do not know of all the new content that was added to the game. The problem is that they added copy abilities to this game, which completely conflicts with the main core design of this game. This game did not need copy abilities, but they said, oh, this will be super interesting. Actually, never mind. I remember the Antu video I watched of the specific mode that was added to this. It added copy abilities, which completely, like, it's an easy game, but now it completely has absolutely no challenge to it. Like, none now. Part of the challenge that came with the platforming is that you don't have copy abilities to lean on for like getting rid of enemies and stuff. Well, now it's completely gone. So this game that was not designed for copy abilities now has copy abilities. It just doesn't work. And then I think one of the new modes that was added is that there's a bat that flies around now, and like if you get touched by the bat, you like lose a whole bunch of your gems. And that just keeps happening over and over and over, so you kind of have to try and beat the level as fast as you can. That's not a good mode. That just sounds annoying. I do not like that. So, exclamation point short. Yellow, if you want it that bad, you can just redeem it as a command. So, again, I really do not have much to say about this game. I did not get to play it, and I will probably never play it because it is an $80 game for some godforsaken reason. So... There you go. I really do not think it would probably be a good game, though. Why did they add copy abilities? Because they wanted because with every 3DS port, they were adding new things. With Yoshi's Woolly World plus Poochie, they added, like, the Poochie stuff. But that didn't, like, detract from the game at all. They just added new content and, like, new levels to play. With this, it just completely changed the core game design of it, which doesn't make any sense. Doing good. I've played Kirby... And there's one on the SNES that has stupid Kirby Golf game mode 0 out of 2 whenever I can. Are you talking about this one? Are you talking about Kirby's Dream Course? Yeah, the one on the SNES that's just Kirby Golf. That's Dream Course. That's the one you're talking about. I think Dream Course is good. It's just that it does take getting used to because it is like a SNES game. That game is garbage. Yeah, teach their own. No, that's why it's a tier list. So now we have one of the other eShop games for the Switch, Kirby Fighters 2. I think it probably goes like right here. So I think the fundamental idea, I honestly don't have much to say about this game despite the fact that I played it. I think that the idea for this game is good. It is a Kirby roguelike. That's cool. The problem is that I don't think that there's enough about like the roguelike boost that really makes it good. Get Dream Course out of the same tier as 3D. What do you mean, like move it to B? Or you mean move it lower to C? I don't know what you mean by that. You could be thing. Yo, let's go, Yellow. Actually, taking my advice. I'll make sure to try to get that added. So, yeah, the idea of a Kirby roguelike is really cool, and it does keep a lot of like just the regular Kirby stuff. Just fight nudes. That's what you do in Kirby. Beat up guys. And I think it's fun. But a lot of it with the roguelike elements is just really bland. It doesn't feel like, one, it doesn't really feel like there's much reward for going through the game, and then two, there's not a lot of like variance in it. You fight Kirby's with the main roster of copy abilities, and that's it. Gets pretty repetitive pretty fast. If you were given the choice to turn on Dream Course or Triple Deluxe, which are you choosing? If you say Dream Course, I'm blocking you. What? Why? Dream Course is fine. Have you ever played that game multiplayer? It's fun. It's super fun. Triple Deluxe is actually kind of playable, unlike Dream Course. Bad tier list and valid opinions detected. Oh, we got the salty people in here now. No, I think Dream Course is a really fun multiplayer game. If you play it single player, the freaking, yeah, you're probably going to get mad because there's like the thing you have to stay under par, like for everything. Triple Deluxe has True Arena, so it's slow as Dream Course. That's not the point of Dream Course though. It's meant as a multiplayer game. It's in a completely different, it's in a completely different genre of game category. Not salty, correct. All right. Again, we'll look everything back over, but I don't think I'm going to be moving it. So yeah, again, I really think I said all about Kirby Fighters 2. It has a decent customization. You can customize your characters a little bit by like giving them new masks and helmets and stuff like that. It's fine. I think some of the abilities in the game were well chosen. Wrestler is a super cool new ability that I just kind of wish that they did more with, but they don't. If you have friends, every game is fun. Okay, yeah. But not all these Kirby games have multiplayer, so. Triple Clash isn't it B? Oh, we just got a bunch of haters here. Which is the Kirby where you roll around the fastest and eat the cake at the end of each level. That's this one. That's the one after Forgotten Land. So we're 2 games away from that. So yeah, I mean, I think this is actually a really cool idea for concept for Kirby, and I don't think it's priced terribly either. So I think what you get is decent for the value. It's just that you really have to be a fan of this. Some people tried to make this a competitive game. Keyword on try. I think the meta for this would have been found out within like 10 days. Because like it's very obvious there are some copy abilities in here. Not all copy abilities are built the same, so. I'm going to suggest Kirby's Dream Course at the function. Sure you can. Bro, it's on Nintendo Switch Online. It's easy to do. You got 2 Joy-Cons. Go at it. Beat that. So Kirby and the Forgotten Land. This is a super hard one because basically, I can tell you right now, Forgotten Land and Dreamland Deluxe are basically the 2 games that would fight for S tier. And I think that overall, I would probably put this here. I'm thinking about it, and I'm feeling good about it, but we'll see if I talk more about it. So, obviously, the pluses of Kirby and the Forgotten Land is that it is the first foray into a full 3D platformer for Kirby, and it was nailed pretty well. I think that for the music in the game, very great. The level design, immaculate. Has some of the most interesting level design in a Kirby game that we've had in a while. Like a whole lot of variants. Like, you know, you have your like lava level and stuff like that, but there's a lot that's in the lava level and a lot that kind of you can interact with that really does not allow itself to other. Hey guys, instead of playing this week Mario Party or Smash Bros. Sauce, we should play a real man's game. Let's get spherical. Sounds like you don't like to have fun and go out and do different things. Do the same thing every time. Anyways, instead of roasting you, we'll stay back to Forgotten Land. Again, here's the thing. I'm going to go ahead and get my main complaint of the game out of the way, and that is that the copy ability selection in this game is very lacking. And I understand why that is. On their first attempt for a 3D game, they don't want to get too overambitious. They don't want to put a whole lot of people... they don't want to go too overzealous and then have a game that's like way too bloated and then maybe have copy abilities that don't really work as well in 3D as they would anticipate. So I think that overall, that's like the biggest downgrade of it. And I think the second thing that most people would take note of is that the quote unquote post-game content / other modes for the game is also that it really doesn't have a lot of like mini game / side game content. The arena and the true arena are kind of just completely cut, and you get like a one large arena, which sort of takes its place, which is fine. It's not bad, but it definitely doesn't have like the same spectacle as like either the arena or true arena. It does not give the same feeling of those at all. Just no spoilers, still on World 1. Put it up there? No, I told myself there are 3 Kirby games that can go in S. I put that restriction on myself. And I think that, but those are like the 2 weakest things. Not really having like an excellent amount of like side game content and not having a whole wealth of copy abilities. But being able, there literally is a true arena. It's just not called that. I mean, it's not really. There's like one extra fight though. Like there's like the post game stuff that you can do, but like, and I mean, this is another criticism. The post game content stuff is just fine. It's not amazing. Again, Yellow, you may want to just mute, but like a lot of that is just like replaying through kind of retrained levels, and you just have to make sure you get a collectible. Like, that's not like playing through, like Meta Nightmare, or what is the King Dedede, I don't remember, is it King Dedede Tour? I think that's what it is. Like those that at least like let you replay through the levels, but like in a very different way and gives you like other kind of abilities and incentives. Post game in that game is just like fine. It's also not very challenging either. Like if you've played the normal game, you're not going to do too much else that really gives you any difficulty. So the True Arena and Superstar Ultra also only had one new fight. Only one new fight in Return to Dreamland, same for triple blocks. No, I understand. I do think the way that it's presented, though, is still not very grandeur. Or grandiose. Either way. I just think that the identity of this Kirby game is obviously the 3D, being in a 3D environment. I think that the final boss is, the pre-final boss, which, you know, who man that, and then the actual final boss are both very good 3D boss fights. So I do think that those are other very strong things for the game. And then again, I keep going back to the copy abilities, man. It just really makes me sad. Upgradable copy abilities are good. I do think that that's something that is a very interesting take on the copy abilities and does circumvent not having as many, but a lot of them still do feel very samey. So I think that's just okay. I feel like for that they could have done a whole lot. So what I'm hearing is that Dream Buffet will be yes. Actually, let's go ahead and move it up there. Anyways, so yeah, I think Forgotten Land is definitely like a solid A. I really do not think that I would move it from this spot unless I moved it up into S. Which, you know, we've already got 3 things here, so, you know, this will just go here at the bottom. There's nowhere else. But yeah, Forgotten Land is to wrap it up, I think Forgotten Land is a very good start for 3D Kirby, and I'm looking forward to what they have next. However, I do sort of wonder how we will look on it from now, knowing that it can only go up from here. It can only go up from here. Your streams feel very samey? Oh, well, that's probably because I played Kirby for like 6 months, so that's my own fault. So. Dream Buffet is a god game. You can put a burger on your Kirby. What more can you ask for? I mean, does give it a pretty high S tier thing. No, honestly though, I do think I would probably rank this one very high. Because as like a Kirby side game, this one's probably the best one that's like on Switch. This one's like the best one on 3DS. This one's the best one that's on Switch. I think I can vibe with that. I think I can vibe with that. Should go back to bottom, screenshot the frame where you still had Dream Buffet in S and return to Dreamland in D. You can. Go ahead. Meme it. Be funny. I think that placement where it is right now is good. The net code. No content plus no net code plus too expensive. I would say that this game is far more playable though than Return to Dreamland. Return to Dreamland looks. Jesus Christ. I'm really terrible at just continuously talking about Return to Dreamland. It's on my mind because that's what I've been playing like the past couple weeks. The most recent thing on my mind. It's way better than like Super Kirby Clash and probably better than Kirby Fighters 2. I don't know that for sure because I didn't really dive into Kirby Fighters 2 online, but I have had 80%, like 85% of my experience playing online with this game has actually been doable. But was it worth $20? I would say yes. This game is extremely replayable. If you do really enjoy the gameplay loop of this just the same way that you would enjoy this, I think that your $20 is getting spent well here. If you put, okay, say you pay this game for 20 hours, you've put $1 into the game for every hour you've played. And I think that you can easily get 20 hours out of this because of the pass that you actually get. And you get all these accessories and extra content, or not extra content. Well, no, you do get extra content because you get extra maps to race on. You get extra, the music, the accessories. You get, well, I mean, I guess technically you also get like the little tasty treats that have like the art from different games on them. And that one's fine. You can decorate the cake and you can decorate your like little sandy thing with it. But if you want me to be honest, this game would have done super well if it was made more like I mean, I guess the only thing to compare it to right now is F-Zero 99, where it's like you give it like way more people ability to play in a match than just like 4 people and then some CPUs. Like if you were able to play versus like 10 people in a single match, I think that would make this game more infinitely replayable because there would be more people to actually play against. But now the game is just like completely dead. Nobody plays it. Dream Course and Dream Buffet are in the same tier. You don't even need friends to play Dream Buffet who let him cook. You don't need friends to play Dream Course either. There's a whole story mode for this game. There's nothing for this game. You're not making a good case for yourself, James. Dream Course, Dream Buffet, and Triple Deluxe in the same tier as offensive? What? Why, how? Just because, like, they're not platformers? I mean, I put friggin' Dreamland 2 down here. Does this not make y'all more mad than, like, these being up here? Anyways, again, more on Dream Buffet. I think that the game loop is very satisfying. Games are short enough that you can go through them really fast. Again, having people to play this game with is very, very fun. I have played this game online and in local, and it's super good. That one sucks. The burger on top of Kirby alone solo stream course. Triple Deluxe solos both of those games? Yes, because it's a traditional Kirby. You're not looking at this as if like they're different genres. We all know how dumb Dreamland 2 was. Yes. I mean, that's why I've ranked it as low as I did. Because I think that it is an actual Kirby game that... the Kirby platformer that has a lot of flaws to it. I mean, I don't see this game being terrible. I mean, I think the one thing that you can complain about this game is that it was priced a little too high. Because I think it was $15 at launch when it probably should have been like $5. But I mean, like, a $15 game is pretty affordable. If a game solos another game, then they aren't in the same tier. Okay, so then what do you want me to do? Do you want me to move this up here? What do you want? Like, because that just seems like it's the easiest solution. But see, I don't think Triple Deluxe is an A-tier game. That doesn't vibe with the rest of this list to me. I mean, obviously, this doesn't vibe for most people, but... most people will put this, like, down in C. But again, that's why this is my list. You nerds. You ain't winning with this tier? No, apparently not, because I just have to remove a whole lot. But yeah, again, I think my final stance on Dream Buffet is that it's really good. It's just that it's a little overpriced, and unfortunately, because I think because it was overpriced, the game died really quick. So, Triple Deluxe at the bottom of A. I'll think about it. I'll have to do a full look. And so, we have Return of Dreamland Deluxe. And honestly, again, this is literally the most recent game I've played. I think after playing this game, I think it probably belongs here. And this is for a couple reasons. One, I have huge nostalgia for this game. Superstar Ultra was the game that I spent the most time playing, like on DS besides this one, basically. This one I have not gone back to like a whole lot recently, but like I think that this game is so replayable. It has so much in it. And then Robobot, again, I think is the perfect Kirby experience. And the only thing that you could say it really does not have over all the others is like the minigame stuff. And I think that this is the thing that this game has over the other two. Is that it just absolutely said, okay, well, what if we just like take all of, well, not all, there's still some missing. What if we take most of the minigames from all of the past Kirby games, put them all in like one area for you to play? Like this is the Kirby Mario Party that y'all been looking for. Like you can actually bring this into like a party and have fun with it because there's so many different mini games to go through. And they made a true arena. Yes. I think I don't know if I have an unpopular opinion on this, but I think the visual style of this game is immaculate. I think that when they had the trailer kind of style for Star Allies, where it was like this very like comic book poppy, very stylistic choice, that I wanted that to be what it was for Star Allies. But instead they decided to use it for this game, where it had like really thick outlines for the characters, and it has like a very nice gradient for most of the enemies and some of the layouts and designs. So, but order the true arenas. I mean, if we're ordering the true arenas, it's probably like this. I mean, a bias would still probably like do this, but maybe like that. Because I think this is still like the best true arena, despite the fact that I haven't beat it. Only thing that Robobot is missing is a boy goy. I think the visual of the game being immaculate is a cold take. I mean, it's one of the best looking Switch Kirby games, besides Forgotten Land. And the only reason Forgotten Land doesn't look as amazing is because it runs in 38 FPS. So, top 3 true arenas go. No. Squeak Squad, and Squeak Squad. They don't have true arenas. I'm probably like one of the people who like I value the True Arena, but like it's not my favorite thing in a Kirby game. I mean, I like the game. That's why I like playing Kirby games. The challenge is just like an extra cherry on top. And yeah, for Return to Dreamland, I mean, it's just like that. It does so much that the main game does already, and the huge additions are the Merry Magoland and I mean, like the masks and stuff like that. And then, well, I mean, you have the new copy abilities, but every new Kirby game basically has new copy abilities. So, Sweetwater doesn't have an arena. Nope. No, it does not. It doesn't have the arena. I mean, it has the only thing that it has really as an extra mode is that it has a hard mode. That's about it. And then it has the mini games. It's very much along the lines of like the other like Game Boy Advance games, like Amazing Mirror and Nightmare in Dreamland, where it's just like a core Kirby experience and like that's about it. You get some like extra mini games. Yeah, actually I rate this one down and at like at the bottom of S because they changed King Dedede's head. That's why. I mean, it's just really overall solid. I mean, there's a reason why most people would like still rate this one super high, right? But it's just that this game is just that, but better. It's the cooler Daniel. That's what it is. Hard mode, and it's SpongeBob and Patrick riding the mitten. Yep. Oh, well, actually, this has a boss rush too, but the boss rush isn't that good. It's like fine. Because it has a boss rush, but it's not even treated as like like the arena or anything like that. It was like the arena, but the fact of the matter is like they already had the arena, so I don't know why you would just not call it. Yeah. Anyways. I don't know. I'm pretty confident with like where that's placed so far, because I think Robobot is unequivocally at the top. Superstar Ultra is a very solid experience and has a lot of personal nostalgia, so I have bias for it. And the Kirby's Return to End Deluxe just has a ton of content in it, like that they added specifically with the Merry Magoland, and then like I guess they took out the scope shot. But it's just the same game that's like really solid, and they amped it up. And then, oh god, frick, I forgot about the post game for Magalore. Jesus. Again, I just played that, so I don't know how I forgot that so quick. Yes, the Magalore epilogue is great. It's awesome. I don't know if that makes me rate it over this. I did really enjoy it. I did really enjoy that. Okay, I'm gonna leave this. I'm gonna leave everything here as it is now. If you're curious, all these games down here are the Japanese games, so we don't need to touch those. They're just Japanese box arts. These are just the games I did not play during the marathon. I mean, I technically played this one. I technically played these two. And then these three were the ones that I actually skipped out on. This one because I couldn't play it. This one because I did not have it purchased on a console that I could stream. And this one because I just do not have this game. Like, I just don't. This is like the only one that is actually missing, and I do not have. All these other ones, I guess I have like feasible ways of getting footage. It's just not easy. And then this one I technically played. This one I haven't even like. Anyways, off of that. So for D tier, we have Battle Royale, Tilt and Tumble, and Pinball Land. I think this is all reasonable. This is a bad game. This is a game that was very experimental and did not succeed the landing. This game is frustrating, but mainly because it was from the Game Boy era, and that's what most Game Boy games that were like high score beaters. That's what they all were. Kirby Star Sucker, just fine. It's like a pretty forgettable. It's a pretty forgettable puzzle game. Avalanche, it's Puyo. So if you really like Puyo, you may like it. I'm not good at Puyo, so I didn't like it. Block Ball. It's Breakout. Breakout's fun, but it doesn't add a lot that normal Breakout doesn't already have. DD Undress. I love rhythm games, but this is a very bare bones rhythm game. Rhythm games, this probably would not last you more than like 2 hours, because I know it didn't last that long for me. Rainbow Curse is just worse Canvas Curse. It doesn't have as much of an identity besides the kind of clay style, and a lot of it is just pretty bland. There's really nothing about it that gives a lot of... This doesn't ooze any personality. Again, the soundtrack of it's good, but you could say that for a lot of Kirby games. Kirby Clash BRY. Again, we're going through things where we'll see where we play stuff. Kirby Fighters 2, I think, is a really interesting idea for a Kirby-themed roguelike, but I think it was probably priced a little too high, and the actual gameplay loop of it is not that... And it doesn't invest you that much because it doesn't include enough variants. Dreamland 2, to me, arguably the worst 2D side-scroll platformer. It's just not that good. There are a lot of design choices in it that are very frustrating, and despite the addition of Ripkind and Ku, I think that actually adds to the frustrations, despite it being a good idea that was perfected more in Dreamland 3. Super Kirby Clash, a freemium game that is fun, has a good gameplay loop, but the multiplayer for a, the online multiplayer for a multiplayer-based game is pretty garbage. And that's a pretty bad thing. Trade Proposition Clash for B, for Dream Course to be moved to C. Again, I'm going through, and when I do all these comparisons, I'll think about it more. I don't want to like inflate any one thing, because I actually am very satisfied with with how this looks right now. It's very perfectly balanced. Blowout Blast, I think, is probably the best game of the eShop games on 3DS. I mean, it's just like a really solid platformer that kind of was the precursor of Kirby's 3D Adventure. And there is a good amount of content in it. There's like extra stages and everything. It's just that you kind of have to have the motivation to go through that, and it doesn't give you a whole lot. So it's really up to you and how much you enjoy the game. Canvas Curse, a super unique idea that made excellent use of the DS screen. It is definitely worth playing. And I kind of wonder, yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to do that. It has a pretty good music selection. The visual style is also very striking. And I mean, it's very unique. It's probably the most unique Kirby game that's on this list. Mass Attack is fine. It's like okay as a Kirby platformer, but it has a lot of things that kind of keep it from being like a satisfying platformer to play, and it just comes with a lot of frustrations. And I don't think that that's like necessarily like the controls are bad or anything. I just think that there are some level design aspects that really do kind of hinder the experience, and then having the requirement to collect a whole lot of collectibles when not really being given any prior notice for that. Dream Course, I think that this is probably like the most, obviously, currently right now, the most divisive Kirby game, because it's not like a standard 2D platformer, but it's like a good, it's like a good genre for Kirby to kind of fit in, and it does have like its own kind of difficulty curve. I think that the areas for it are very interesting, like level designs are very well crafted in terms of trying to like maneuver each thing with your copy abilities. It's a puzzle in and of itself, which gives it more depth to besides just being your standard fair golf game. And I think that the only weakness of it is just that if you don't know the answer, sometimes you just have to restart you just have to restart. That's it. But I mean, that's golf in general. Kirby's Epic Yarn, another divisive game. I still think that this game kind of bangs. That's why I haven't put it lower, but I do see a lot of the flaws in it for it being a game that really is built for a very niche audience. But I think there's always a place for that. So I do think that this game still deserves to be here, and I think Goodfield delivered an excellent game, both visually and audibly for the system, for the Wii. I think this game is still really, really good. Dream Buffet is a very good game with an excellent loop, but I think the downfall of it is that it really was not a game that was accessible. People had to pay money for this game when it really didn't need to be. They could have very easily made this game free and it would have done fine. I mean, they could have done it in the same, like I was saying before, they could have done it in the same vein as like Tetris 99 and F-Zero 99 and made it free for like online members. And so if you really wanted to play the game, all you had to do was have your online subscription and it would do just fine. But they didn't do that. And so despite it being a good game, having a good lot of amount of collectibles, having a really good gameplay loop, games never ever last too long, and having an okay online experience, it's just fine. Do the list again, I wasn't working. That's what the VOD's for, again. Star Allies, mid. This game just didn't go far enough with its ideas, and despite, I think the, overall game being good, gameplay's fine, yeah, and I do stand by that. Gameplay is fine, music is fine, visuals are fine. It is mostly that the gimmick of the game was not really taken far enough. So, despite it being okay, it really does not have an identity. Kirby's Dream Land, it is a good game. You're not gonna see me saying anything good and or bad about this game. If you're not really used to Game Boy controls, it can be a little difficult, but there's nothing like that's super offensive about it. The only thing is that it does not have copy abilities introduced yet, but I do not see that as a hindrance for the game because it is still a solid experience. I don't remember paying for Dream Buffet. It could have been like a beta though. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, they could have done all of their eShop games better, but they just decided to list them a little higher than usual. Amazing Mirror. This is a very different Kirby game, more focused on exploration, and I do really like that. I think that is part of Kirby that we really have not gone further into, and I think could be improved in a lot of ways. I think the multiplayer aspect, which has been done in other games, is actually very unique here because there's a lot of freedom for each individual player, and I think that's good. Time for bed. Have a good night. Yo, Island. See ya. Thanks for sticking around this long. Kirby Triple Deluxe. A good Kirby game that, again, really doesn't have as much of an identity. I mean, it has more of an identity than Star Allies, but, I mean, it's like good. Again, I think that this is the barrier between, like, a great Kirby game and, like, good Kirby games. It's like right here. I think this is the gatekeeper, which is why I feel like I should keep it at B. But again, we'll look at that. Dreamland 3. So it has some of the issues of Dreamland 2, a little bit less, but it also makes up for having immaculate art style and having an incredible soundtrack. This game is almost carried on presentation alone. And like the final boss and stuff is pretty good, but again, puzzling and trying to get unlockables for areas can be a good bit of a hassle. Is it manageable? Yes, but that Dreamland formula is just not perfected. And then some people would say that, Modern Kirby's gone too far with making things too easy to do, but I think that fits the genre, like the kind of audience that Kirby goes for more. Squeak Squad, a game that does not deserve to be up here, but I like it a lot. So Kirby Squeak Squad is my favorite game, super guilty pleasure game. I love it to death. And I think that a lot of the ideas in it were good, but a lot of its flaws do start to show, especially when you get further into the game. When it comes to like the kind of story that it's built around, when it comes around to especially the final boss, the payoff for that is not amazing at all. But I think the movement in the game is phenomenal. I think that the scrolls are a very cool idea, just was not taken far enough. And I think that and the soundtrack of the game is also very good, but that might partially be because of nostalgia, I feel like. Or that might be more because of nostalgia, despite, all of us being nostalgia. So. Kirby's Adventure, the first Kirby game to really give him his identity with the copy abilities, and I think it's done very well. They executed it perfectly, and there's nothing really bad to say about this game. I think the level structure is fine. Obviously, it has a really great soundtrack that's reused for many games afterwards, same with Dreamland. And yeah, I mean, and it has a really good final boss. It's very stunning. And in Dreamland, Nightmare in Dreamland, it's basically the same. I don't see myself rating either of these games any lower than the other, and I think I'll only prefer this because it has the controls of the Game Boy Advance games. That's about it. That's the reason I think that's the reason I rate it higher, and that's about it. Kirby 64, again, this game could probably be rated lower, but was a super influential game because this was my first Kirby game I ever played, not the first Kirby game I ever owned, mind you. But it was a phenomenal game, very memorable, has extremely good music, and its visuals were also really good at the time for the 64. I think that the story for it, also pretty solid. The only issue is that or not the issue, let me save this first. The copy ability combinations are excellent. Some of them are a little odd because they didn't really have, I guess, an idea to go full on in with, but it's super phenomenal to experiment with. It's just that it does suffer from some Dreamland where it's like the answer is either very obtuse or it requires you to like completely backtrack to other areas to get different copy abilities, which is not good. I do not think that's a good thing. But it has very little of that, which I think makes it a better game like than Dreamland 3 in that regard. Kirby's Air Ride, cult classic, incredibly fun. The other two modes for actually racing and the top ride are not good, but City Trial carries this game and it carries it hard. It is an infinitely replayable game, and even more so than like some of these other games down here that are meant to be like very focused on multiplayer. This game does it right. It does it right, and it has it in like a ton of variants. I think if you use Doubleman's example and you like, we're going to choose like Kirby games to play multiplayer wise for that party multiplayer experience, like these two games are probably the ones that you'd choose between. Kirby Air Ride and then Triple Deluxe, or not Triple Deluxe, Return to Dreamland Deluxe. Return to Dreamland, normal game. It's amazing. It's basically Kirby's big return. It had a significant amount of polish added to it in both the gameplay and the music and the modes. It just has a lot in it that you really can't go wrong with. The final boss and the actual like twist of the final boss is still pretty good and does have influence for the future of the games, kind of giving you a lot of shock value. And I mean, like, Marx was the original, but I think coming into this game and then having Maglore and then having him be more involved in the story and then have him be the villain, I think was a very good move on the, I guess the designer's part or the director, if they were the one who chose to make that decision. I think it definitely made this game extremely memorable. And then, you know, the enhanced copy abilities are a huge part of this game, which does give it a good identity. Kirby Superstar. Oh my god, people love this game, and it's for a good reason. It has so much content in it. You get to play through a bunch of different modes that are significantly different, despite, you know, playing the same core Kirby game. A lot of it is made variants. There are different objectives to complete. There's a bunch of exploration that's encouraged, especially in like the Great Cave Offensive. There's just a lot in this game, and I think that this is like the quintessential Kirby game in terms of like peak 2D platformers that's not these three up here. Because these two basically also share that spot on the podium. And then there's Forgotten Land. Forgotten Land is the first 3D Kirby game, and it does it very well. I do not think it does it perfectly, but I do commend HAL for doing such an amazing job in the transition, and I can only wait to see, like, I'm so excited to see what they bring about next, because my biggest complaint is the lack of copy abilities, but I see why they did it, because that would have added more development time to the game that would not have been necessary. Everything else about this game is fine. I just think that in terms of like extra modes, there could have been a little more, and it's just delivered in a very different way because everything's in Waddle Dee Town, whereas, you know, everything else usually in a Kirby game is on a menu. And then you get to the big three. Talking about shonens now. Got Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. Just this game, but better. Again, it's Coolier Daniel. Has a way more content. The epilogue for Maglore and the Merry Magoland really does carry it. And is it currently the Great Kirby era? I would say after these last two games, you might be able to say that. But the problem is that this game is just a remake of this one. So it's not like they made a brand new like Kirby banger. It's just like they added more to this. So I think it's debatable. But the and I mean, yeah, I don't think that there's anything like that these games necessarily have competing with each other except for Robobot, because Robobot's just um, so I think that that does carry this a lot, and the fact that it's just enhanced makes it better. It's also way more accessible. So, and then there is Kirby Superstar Ultra. It's this game but better. Wow, who would have known? Um, it has a lot more content than the base game. It again kind of it has that Superstar gameplay feel, but it just looks a little better. I know again that's kind of that would be a bit of a difference of opinion, probably just based on like what you grew up with. But I think undeniably like all the extra content in the game is really what sells it. It's like the perfect Kirby game all in one package. And I think that's the best way to describe it. There's really not a lot that you have to go into for it because everybody knows that this game already has excellent gameplay, excellent stories, excellent music. It's just got a lot. But if you're talking about the best Kirby game that is completely wholly unique and has like just it has like A pluses and like every single thing you want to rate, whether it be story and gameplay and all that, in music, it's this 100%. I think honestly the weakest part about it is like the side games, but those tend to be very forgotten in Kirby games anyways, and the core experience that they deliver for you alongside of like the extra modes that it includes, it's just great. Like that there's nothing about this game that is that you can really play down on. And I think the one gripe that people have is that maybe the Robobot idea wasn't taken too far enough, but I think it was just right. Because if they did too much more with it, I think it would feel too gimmicky and it would kind of muddy up the gameplay. But I think they reached a perfect balance. And I think the final boss is incredible, not only just as a spectacle for the player, but just also for Kirby in general. Like it is so referential, and you know, if you want to go even deeper into lore, it's great. So I think all of this is great. I think I'm actually at the end of this new playlist too. No, I got a little bit long. Anyways, so let me go back. So now that I've gone over all of that again, what do I want to move? I don't have to keep things balanced. That's just me kicking in, being like, I want things to look good. If I'm going to be honest, I could probably do this. Like if I'm wanting there to be more space. No, I cannot justify. I like Dreamland 3, but I don't like it that much. I would always rate Squeak Squad higher. So this is all good. I think that these are like, again, these are like the kind of puzzle games that you just kind of, to me, I'm kind of yelling about. Block Ball is at least interesting because it's Breakout, and I enjoy Breakout, so that's bias. these feels like they fail in some way. This is a generic eShop game that really does not do a lot. This is a just decent sequel. This is an eShop game that doesn't do a lot. This is the worst of the Kirby 2D platformers. This is a okay eShop game that's free, but it's freemium and it has only okay multiplayer. So I'm probably leaning towards bad. Blowout Blast is the best of the 3DS platformers, and it is a good game. Like, I really do not think Blowout Blast is bad at all. I think it's just short and it's very one note in its content. Mass Attack is a decent experimentation with Kirby platforming. I do not think it is terrible. I just think that it is very different, and it does have some pitfalls almost similar to how Dreamland has pitfalls in terms of its like platforming challenges and collectibles. Dream Course, I think it is a very well developed idea, but I understand that this genre is kind of limiting for a Kirby game, and that the story mode could have had at least a little bit more added to it to maybe make it, one, more intuitive, and two, more engaging. Because there's really not a lot to this game to incentivize you to play the single player, I guess. You're playing it because it's a Kirby golf game, not really because it's like got a hook to it, really. Dream of Fate, I think, is the best game of the eShop titles, basically. I mean, there's nothing like really inherently wrong with it besides the price, if you want my honest opinion. I think this game has a great gameplay loop. The online is completely fine. It's very passable. I have not had a situation where like, I've never had a situation in this game where the game has actually stopped. Like, it might pause, but I've never been disconnected in a round from this game. I do not recall anything like that. And I played it a lot, like when it was like at its like peak, which was not very high. You know what I mean though. When it had its like popularity when it first came out. Canvas Curse, extremely creative idea that really stands out from a lot of the other Kirby games, and I think is delivered very well. It's just that it is very different. Kirby's Epic Yarn, very divisive game. I still think that it has a place that belongs in a niche. This is mid. That's it. First game, so it's good, but it's as bare bones as you can get. This has a very interesting gimmick with the exploration, and it doesn't do anything inherently wrong. Like, the map is very intuitive, and I think that the multiplayer aspect is like one of the first parts of the Kirby games that really kind of tries to carry it. But obviously you have to have friends for that, so kind of depends. Triple Deluxe is a good Kirby game, but not a great Kirby game. It is basically like, if you wanted to start somewhere, I think this would be the safest Kirby game to play. But obviously everyone would just recommend you start up here. Like, I would probably say, go maybe here, and then if you want to explore more of Kirby's stuff, you can go down, because after this point, you start getting into like the really weird stuff. You either get to stuff that's different than what Kirby actually is, what Kirby was not even, because it didn't even have cop abilities. You get into mid, or you get into Baby's first game. So again, I really do think Triple Deluxe is the true gatekeeper. Dreamland 3, it is a good game. It has a fantastic art style and fantastic music. Both of those carry this game, though, because the puzzle solving and the collectibles in it are just a little too obtuse sometimes. But I mean, it's fine. It's not as frustrating as Dreamland 2, not even in the slightest. Kirby Screw Squad, again, probably could place it lower than some of these other ones. Probably most people would probably like put it next to Epic Yarn, I guess. But I just love this game to death, and that's all I have to say. I really don't have to justify myself any more than that. Kirby's Adventure, literally the first Kirby game to really solidify him. This is just a enhanced version of that with the controls that I actually super enjoy. Not that these has bad controls, it's just that this era for GameCube, I mean, it technically was GameCube, Game Boy Advance and DS, really, really enjoyed. Kirby 64, first game I played, so there's a lot of nostalgia that plays into it, but I also think it is a very breathtaking Kirby game, both in gameplay and music, has great ideas, and also plays well. It's just that the completing this game can be a bit of a hassle. Kirby Air Ride, completely carried by City Trial, but hey, that's all you need. Return to Dreamland, amazing game. Superstar, amazing game. Great collection. Forgotten Land, really good game. My only quarrel is that it is the first of its kind, so I think it can only go up from here. But that doesn't mean that it's terrible. Return to Dreamland Deluxe, just this but better. Superstar Ultra, just this but better. And then Robobot Peak. Go to bed. No. I think we finished up here, though. I'm feeling good about this. I don't think I would move anything else. And really, I didn't change the spots of things much. I think the most drastic change I made was that I put these two games lower. I dropped this a tier. I think most of everything else stayed the same. Yeah, I think that's it. So, definitive Kirby game list. You're seeing it right now. This is what every Kirby game or Kirby player believes. Kirby fans. You have made the definitive tier list. I will make the same joke that everybody else makes. That my tier list is just facts. Pure facts. But, yeah, I mean, I think those are good. I mean, the only thing is, like, maybe somebody would drop Block Ball, because, I mean, it kind of feels the same as he is. Guess I'm not a true Kirby fan, then. As I mean, you don't have to be a true Kirby fan. Bro, I'm not even a true Kirby fan, apparently. I didn't even play all the games. But, yeah. I did, I mean, I really enjoyed this. Again, took way longer than I expected, but, I had fun with it. And that was the point, so. If I'm going to be honest, what I might do is next stream, or next time I stream, it may be a secret stream for beating Robobot, because I don't know if I should, like, interrupt everything else just so that way I can finish that. So I might do that, like, and try and do a short stream on a Tuesday or Thursday to try and finish that up. We'll see. And I will give people proper notice for that. But I may not, like, at everyone for it. So... I do hope that y'all enjoyed this. It was very long-winded. Again, I love ranting. I love it a lot. But I do feel like everything here is pretty okay. There are things you can move because, I mean, some people might say, oh, well, Kirby's Adventure is too basic. But I think it's very important in Kirby's Legacy, first game. And, I mean, it still plays great. And then just some other kind of, like, out-of-there sort of games like Sweet Squad, Amazing Mirror... Just some weird ones that, like, people would be like, I probably place that lower, but bias does do what it does. Be what it do. All right, I'm good. That is the list as it is, and I will now go to bed. As Mr. Chris recommended, but I do really appreciate everybody for coming by. Hopefully you did enjoy this. I know that this is probably, like, just a way more low-key stream than most people would kind of intend. But overall, I mean, hey, I'm having fun, so. And yeah, it'll be nice to have, like, a VOD of this, especially to compare, like, the, especially to, like, kind of compare, like, maybe a couple years down the line. You went so long that even I'm in bed now. Let's go. All right. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping up stream. I think really the only thing I have to do is, like, one special thank you. I'm going to get completely butchered if there's someone else. No, I was right. It was Chris with a resub for 37 months. Do very much appreciate it, my friend. Thank you for the sub. I know that you want me to go to bed, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And as for everybody else who came by, thank you to Josh for coming by. Thank you to Yellow for coming by. Thank you to... Double Man for coming by. Thank you to Chris for coming by. Once again, thank you to Avdar for coming by. Thank you to JMC for coming by. JMC, I'm glad that you stuck around for a good bit. It was very nice seeing you, and hopefully you had a good time here. I felt like Ender stopped by, but maybe if they did, it was only for just a little bit. I'm going to thank Ender anyways. Thank you, Ender. Whether you stick around or not. And I think that's it. Because I think I already thanked y'all and Josh since they were earlier in the stream. Oh, Empress. I don't think I thanked Empress. Thank you. Do appreciate it. Besides that, I am going to wrap it up. That should be it. If I did forget to thank you, I do very much apologize. Hopefully you still enjoyed the stream. If you're lurking, hopefully you enjoy that lurk. But everybody, this time fantastic outdoor we will make beep Outback stream on it should be Wednesday. I don't think I have anything that should be going on, and we may be getting to the next story game. I'm going to have to check with the person who redeemed the next story game to make sure that's what they want, but we'll just have to wait and see. Or I'll just have to wait and see, because I will actually probably have to wait for a response from them. But anyways, do appreciate y'all for coming by again. I did really enjoy this. Just that one last dose of Kirby before we go do literally anything else. So I'm glad that you guys stayed on this journey for me for so long. Again, I might make a video in the future saying this was a mistake, but I mean, even if it was, I still enjoyed myself, and hopefully you guys will be excited for anything that's not Kirby moving on in the future. So take care. I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys go. If you're going to bed, please have yourself a good night, have a good night's rest, and have a good day tomorrow. But if you're not going to bed, please enjoy the rest of your night. Just relax, do whatever you want, do whatever you please, and until I see y'all next time, bye-bye. I had a freaking burp there at the last second. All right, see y'all.